Rough news today for the Bills injury report. Defensive tackle Ed Oliver, a new addition, and did not practice with an ankle issue. Our own Sal Capaccio reports that Oliver was seen today in a walking boot on his left foot and was using a scooter. We'll get more on today when Sal Capaccio does join the show at 4 p.m. Other notes, with today being a walkthrough, 6 players were limited. Greg Rousseau, Dawson Knox, and Trey White for a second straight day. Jordan Hancock, a new addition with a shoulder. And then Shaq Thompson and Taron Johnson were elevated to that after not practicing yesterday. Everyone else was a full participant. And the Barnes Firm Injury Report, it is brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. Thursday Night Football tonight, Packers hosting the Washington Commanders. Kickoff will be over on Amazon Prime just after 8:15, and then our coverage right here will begin just after 7:30. Packers have ruled out edge Brenton Cox Jr. and cornerback Bo Melton, while for Washington, punter Trace Way and edge rusher Dietrich Wise Jr. are questionable. Chiefs wide receiver Xavier Worthy is back to practice today. He's dealing with a dislocated shoulder. And then Bucs wide receiver Chris Godwin also practicing today, the first time since last season. Bison's at Rochester. That game will get going just after 6. It can be heard on our sister station, The Bet 1520. Starting in just a few minutes, we will have the Jays hosting the Astros while the Yankees host Detroit. That game, though, will get going just after 7. The Jays do still hold that 3-game lead in the AL East. And then also just after 7, Mets at Phillies. And stream your local NFL games all season long, kicking off with the Week 2 matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets, starting at just $30 for your first year. That's like $2.50 a month. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. It's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I don't think that's a very good attitude.
It's Mike Schopp.
You don't think? You don't think? I don't think you should be butting in when I'm talking to my team. You're my assistant, okay? You're supposed to back me up and go get me juice boxes when I tell you. Now go get me a juice box.
You know who you're talking to?
It's the Bulldog.
I'm talking to the juice box guy.
You're crazy.
I'm not crazy. I'm just thirsty.
Why don't you go to hell?
No, you go to hell. While you're there, why don't you grab me a juice box?
I'm no juice box boy, I'll tell you that.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you
It's
are.
Mike
I'm not.
Schopp and the Bulldog on WGR Sports Radio 550.
So, I'll preface this by saying, I know, yes, there's already enough hate in the world, but have you figured out yet how to hate Aaron Glenn?
No.
What's it going to take? We need you on this.
I mean, I guess I could pretend to fall for one of those fake Facebook things where he's talking about what a jerk he thinks Josh Allen is or something. I don't even know if that exists, but it almost definitely does. But I think it would take that. I went through the bio and his career, and I married his college sweetheart. I got.
Oh yeah.
I got into the personal file. I got nothing.
You did get after it a little bit. It seems.
I did. Yeah.
Yes.
You want to check my history, my browser history? I googled some Aaron Glenn this week.
I don't even want to acknowledge the history because then I'm going to get stuck with whatever these Facebook things are you keep bringing up. I don't even want to say it.
Yeah, right. Your computer's going to hear us say that, and then you're going to start getting them.
I mean, I'm never on there.
I just don't know how I ended up in that circle of hell, but I am. Anyway, no, I have not managed to get anywhere. Could I try? I guess I could try. I said you aren't going to play and you're not on my team if you make mistakes, and they cut their punt returner after a fumble on Sunday.
This is the guy that beat the Bills
last
overtime.
year. Yeah,
2 years ago.
Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. So that, I mean, I don't know. That might be an overreaction. Okay, tough guy. But I'm bending over backwards trying. He's too new.
It was Dan Leberfeld yesterday who brought up. I love that Dan almost always asks us a question or two in the course of our conversations with him. And he's like, what did you guys think of how we handled Aaron Rodgers? And, you and I are mostly the same here. We really don't like Aaron Rodgers. So to have him fly in so we could fire him, maybe that was a little rough.
Yeah, When
It was a player you liked.
When Dan asked us that, I said objectively, like without my personal feelings about Rodgers entering it, that seemed like it might have been unnecessary. But I did hear back from some fans that reminded me, and this I think was brought up at the time when Rodgers was reportedly miffed at how they asked him to do that. That he wants in-person meetings. Didn't want
he got one.
So what are you supposed to do there? But I still think you could have probably avoided doing that to him. I think Aaron Glenn did that. See, this makes me like him, but it's because I'm biased. I don't like Rodgers. I think he did that to embarrass Rodgers because Rodgers embarrassed the Jets. And he's trying to tell you it's a new day here. We're going to be doing things differently. We're not going to be a joke anymore. And I respect him trying to do that. And I don't know that Sean McDermott would have done something like that, but I mean he did. He put heads on posts. A few months after he got this job, in mid-August, he traded away Sammy Watkins and Ronald Darby, guys that were, relatively high picks. Darby, I think, was a second. Watkins obviously was a first-round pick, and they were expected to be key contributors, and he just went like, no, you're not my style or the style I want, and you're goodbye. Glenn doing this with Rodgers is obviously a bigger star than both of those guys put together, but it's the same concept. I want people to know it's going to be different, and if that takes embarrassing a future Hall of Famer, I guess so be it. What do you care more about, Rodgers' feelings or the team you like? The Jets. So. I even can't really get after him for that, even though I do admit I think it's maybe somewhat petty, but I think there was a larger picture in mind when he did it.
All right. Well, by bringing this up, I think you're even starting to like him more.
Yeah, that's really disappointing. Yeah.
It's not helping.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Because
no, it's not.
Bulldog's reputation is famous for hating the coach of whoever the Bills play.
Who do the Bills play next week? Miami? Oh, that'll be easy.
You think?
Yeah, I think that won't be a problem. I don't really hate Mike McDaniel, but he's easy to pick at this point. He's always been easy to pick at, actually, I think, because he was so sort of outside the box.
I feel kind of bad for him, McDaniel.
I get that. I
mean, I bought that he was really good. The start was incredible. I mean, that 2 years ago when they were scoring the 70 points and everything, and it really did seem – I was convinced. I mean, there were concepts – that were new and teams had really no idea for a while what to do about it. But they've had lots of...
Everybody caught up.
There's that, it's not going to last forever. But they were pretty good. And, he's got some big personalities there to deal with. And the GM hasn't put a good team on the field in like 10 years, having been there. Or, I don't know. I don't think he's getting a lot of help is all I mean by that, McDaniel. And now, well, we'll see what happens Sunday. They're actually favored against New England. AFC East, two AFC East meetings this week. Aaron Glenn was on the Jets as a player the last time I might say the Bills and Jets were both good. They're interesting in terms of the rivalry stuff, the Jets, with the Bills anyway, because they've rarely ever both been good, Late 90s. They were both good. 98, there was a big game here that the Jets won on a Saturday. That might have been for the division or just about was for the division. Flutie and Testaverde. So there was then, and I guess the early 80s, they were in the playoffs together. That would have to count. Mm-hmm. But it was almost like a one-off, and then one or both teams went away. Like the Bills in the mid-80s, and then the Jets were bad when Kelly was peaking. And since...
Yeah, even with Ken O'Brien, they were never really a threat to the Bills. It was always Miami.
The O'Brien Jets would kind of club the Bills, again, mid-'80s there were some blowouts, at least a couple I can think of. But since, 2000, really, what's the biggest game they've ever had with this team? Twice a year.
The Jets with a chance to go to the playoffs with a win in the finale here, and Fitz throws 3 picks.
And you had nothing to play for.
Right. All you had was spoiler for the Jets.
The early season games, and there have been a bunch of them, like this one, the game 2 years ago in week 1, where that feels like a big game because you're not off the ground really yet, or at all in that case. When it's the opener. There was a Thursday night here 10 years ago. Remember that game? Super high-scoring game that the Jets won on a Thursday night.
Is that when Greg Roman got fired?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
And the Bills, in their history of offensive coordinator firings, only do it after the offense was great or the special teams blew the game or whatever it was, like with Dorsey. But, Miami and New England, the rivalry topics come up, and they're always the same. Like the Patriots and their domination with Brady and Belichick. I mean, that's still pretty fresh. And then Miami is like your dad's version of the Patriots, right? I mean, for the 70s and all that. But the Jets really... I don't know.
The Jets don't have, both of those teams. I saw this because Dak Prescott is going for a 14th consecutive win over the Giants.
Is that right?
This week. Yeah, he lost his first year. I think they lost both games, and since then he has not lost to the Giants. So 14 is what he can get to, and the only quarterback who had more wins consecutively against a team was Greasy in the 70s, 17 in a row he was credited for. And then a little bit further down the list, I think tied right now with Prescott is Brady from the 2000s with 13. Because there was
that's the most it ever was 13 straight.
I guess that's what I if my memory isn't too faulty from earlier today, that I saw that as it related to Prescott and the Giants playing this week. So the Bills are on that list twice, but there's no Jets. Jets. There's no there is no era where really I would say one or the other really. I mean, I guess in the 90s the Bills maybe treated the Jets like a punching bag, but it wasn't any kind of tear of consecutive wins like that.
No, they had a bad loss to them at home, and I think 92 or 3. It was one of those 2 years where they were huge favorites and lost to the Jets. But right, like they didn't have like a long streak.
It's always been a weird. It's always like some of us in Buffalo, I'm definitely among them, have a thing about the the downstate teams, just the superiority of the New York metropolitan area, New York City metropolitan area. And so, like, there's a sort of, I don't like this team thing. But other than that, which I think you got to really work at.
I feel that.
Yeah, the Jets don't do it the way Miami or the Patriots do, and they never really have. Because it's just they've never kept me from doing anything I wanted to do. Even that one playoff game, the Bills won.
That's right.
So they've never really been in the way of the Bills. And, in fact, really the only time I think the Bills maybe were ever in their way is this Fitz game that I referenced from a few years ago where he threw picks late and cost them a chance to get to the playoffs.
Except 98. That was the one season where it was big between the two teams. A lot of the rivalry stuff for me, and I think for most people, you think of the fans, right? I mean, the players come and go and get traded and move around. It's the fans who are the same. Like, you turn on a Bills at Jets game like the one on Sunday, it always looks the same and it sounds the same, right? The JETS and all that you
Fireman
get.
Ed, yeah.
And because the Jets were good, like when I was at that age getting into football, like I still feel that every time. I still feel sort of like an anger toward them. I have the rivalry in me with the Jets. Yeah. The Patriots, maybe likewise, as dominant as New England was over the Bills, I never really developed that because I was, an adult. Like I never really developed the same. Mm-hmm. The Patriots were terrible at the same time, like early 80s, right? So, or, pretty much. And I don't know, there's a different sort of effect that Turn the Game on Bills at Patriots has on me. Not that it's like insignificant, but the Jet thing is really more there.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. Definitely. That's why, generationally speaking, Miami, for people my age, our age, still outranks New England, even though New England, in the current era, or in the era that it happened, and it's not current anymore, it's a few years, gone now, but the dominance was even more, to me, impressive and therefore annoying because, like, in the 70s, Miami was great, and like they had the same dudes on the team for like 18 years, it seemed like. They were just all the same guys. And I'm exaggerating for the point, but in an era where parity was, the thing in the NFL, to have a team lord over you like New England did it just shouldn't happen. really.
Right.
The system is set up to prevent it from happening. And in the 70s, when Miami was doing that to you, there was no such system in place. They had great players. They weren't going anywhere, and you were stuck.
There was no way around it.
Right.
Yep. Well, I mean, the Patriot thing, as I'm saying it and we're talking about it, almost doesn't make sense to me. Like, why it isn't. The idea, the word rivalry for what the Bills and Patriots were over the last 20 years is not even like the word, I think. It's just more pathetic.
Yeah.
That the Bills were so rarely able to sort of play on their level.
Well, that's what made the Miami thing so tasty in the 90s, is that if you were, again, our age and you lived through for the 70s, seeing the Bills, they didn't didn't run the table on Miami, but, Miami had, there were playoff games, including an AFC title game in Miami, and you always kept them from getting the prize.
It's the best.
And so that's really good. So even though whatever the record would have been in that era when Kelly versus Marino, I mean, it's lopsided, but it's not dominant outright the way the 70s were in reverse. But still, it did enough. Like, that's where that juice came from. When the Bills started beating them, it just felt like 3 wins in 1 every time, just because there was so much scar tissue from the 70s. And, New England, when you're an adult, it's annoying and frustrating, but it doesn't cut the same way. I mean, I totally respect people who are 30 years old who feel that way about New England and don't feel really anything about Miami, because, you're born when you're born. And the things that happen that impress you or make impressions upon you when you're little, those are often in sports the things that stick.
When it comes to the fans, too, I mean, I love that anytime it comes up, that AFC Championship, Bills win in Miami, it's just one of my very favorite games to think about, is that day. There's something, the satisfaction of your team winning on the road and spoiling those people's day, as bad as that sounds. Like, it's just very rich. But, the jet point, turn the game on, that sounds like it sort of takes you right back to when that was a tough game. And New England is different. Miami, I just feel like they're all Bills fans in that stadium.
Right.
I mean, it's not over like the Bills in the 70s, but they just have they own the Dolphins. Allen and the Bills. If I were a Dolphins fan, I have a good friend who is, and it's like us with New England, I think, right now with them. And the Dolphins have had better teams by a little bit, at least, than the Bills had in those years. But come on, like, it's just sort of a joke what the Bills-Dolphins thing has been. Remember last year? That was week 2, the Thursday night in Miami, so it would have been tonight.
Right.
And Miami might have been favored in that game. It was like, okay, well, let's see what this is. And that game was such a joke. Like, Miami was just not on the same level at all. And that's what most of these meetings have really ended up like with the Dolphins. The Jets, I'm a noted Jets fan. And
that's right.
Enthusiast.
You are often higher on them
than anybody.
The whole Rodgers time. I mean, the first year got undone, but going into it, you thought that was going to work, and then you thought it would work last year too.
It's probably the same thing about watching them in 1981 that makes me think they're actually good all the time. I don't know, but the Bills have won 8 out of 10. It's not like they always go there and struggle.
It's just that they're close. They're closer than you'd like. And the losses are pretty memorable, I'd say, right? I mean, you've got the opener where they knock Rodgers out, but Allen turns it over, I think, 4 times, 3 picks and a fumble. And then the loss there that precedes that one, if it's 8 out of 10, is the one where Allen had hurt his elbow, but still managed to throw a ball 70 yards on target to Gabe Davis, who couldn't catch it. So the losses stand out, and the wins are often closer than you'd like them to be. Like last year's game there. Of course, I'm omitting the finale here where the Jets just laid down 40-0. Here comes Tyrod Taylor, and there's a couple of scores late, but holy cow. But the game there last year was tense. It was like, wow, why can't I just put this team down, is often how it feels when you're playing the Jets. I don't know, often. It's happened a few times.
Yeah, the last 3 games, the Jets have in New York, the Jets have won twice, like you just said, and then last year the Bills won by a field goal. So, what about this Jets team right now? The line is 6.5, 7. We'll talk to Joe Ostrowski in 10 minutes about that, our game and then the rest of week 2, which starts tonight. Washington at Green Bay. Are you buying them? I mean, I guess I can't be trusted to give you an honest answer for myself.
I want to. We'll see about Justin Fields. I mean, I watched almost every snap of that game on Sunday, and he did look really good. I gotta give credit where it's due. I think he did a really nice job. But, long year, like Dan said, Leberfeld said yesterday, like, you had a lot of time to prepare for that game. Let's see what, you get into the rhythm of the season, how it goes. But I do think I liked the left tackle last year, Fashno, and pairing him with the kid they drafted this year. That looks nice. Like they could have some version of Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown there, and they're only 1 and 2 years. Not even they're 1 and 0 years into their careers. But the reviews are very good. This Membo had the highest grade from any offensive lineman in week 1
against TJ Watt.
Against TJ Watt, often enough anyway. So I think they've got something going on there. And what Dan said to us yesterday about, the loss of Vera Tucker, as good and great a player as he's been, they might even be better overall because the center has moved to guard and can be a good player. And maybe I don't know. I think they might be pretty stout up front is all I'm going. So I'm buying that. There's nothing to not like about Garrett Wilson or Breece Hall, I don't think. Beyond that, I'm not sure what I'm really dealing with, from a skills perspective.
It's interesting timing for the Bills defense, and it's not like it went well against Baltimore, but you're playing something like Baltimore again here.
Right.
With Fields and Breece Hall, kind of like maybe a poor man's version of the Ravens. Hall is great. I mean, when he gets – we'll see what he looks like. I mean, you watched the game on Sunday. Early in that game, he had a few great runs. I was hearing all summer how they were going to split time there with Braylon Allen, but that really didn't happen so much in that game, right? He was on the field a little bit. Allen vultured a touchdown in that game for the Jets, but still, like Breece Hall showed his talent on Sunday. Yeah,
and defensively, they've got Quinnen Williams. Has been annoying. I think he's an excellent player up front. And the edge guys, I mean, Jermaine Johnson, I think, has had injuries, so I don't know what to really expect from him. But Will McDonald, I think, is pretty nice. Sauce Gardner's really good. So they've lost, they still have the nickel corner, the slot corner, right, is Michael Carter. But they lost Justin Reed, and so we'll see what they can do with the other corner spot. But I think the secondary is not as strong as it has been for them because of the loss of Reed. But there's known good players there, if not even great players. Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner might be great players.
The Bills may or may not have Ed Oliver for this game. We'll talk to Sal at 4 and see what's up with that. Oliver was seen in a boot today and is on the injury report and was not yesterday. So something is maybe up there. We'll see what that is. Joe Ostrowski from Bet Sweats coming up. Sal, as I mentioned, as well. And late, Paul Hamilton, as there is a hockey game of sorts tomorrow. Tomorrow. Prospects stuff. And then the preseason will be here, in just over a week, I think, week and a half or so. So that's coming. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here at 803-0550. Joe O after this timeout here on WGR. Bills and Jets Sunday at 1 here on WGR. Week 2 in the NFL gets going tonight with Washington at Green Bay. You ever open a website that has just so many pop-up things that it feels like your computer is dying from it?
Yes, I work here. Yes.
You mean it's ours?
Just keep moving.
Yeah, that's happening to me right now on one of my favorite sites, but it's just like bam, 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 bam. And it's, in theory, it's safe for work.
There are certain sites, I don't want to name them, that I use every day that are, if we're talking about another team, say, and I've got their depth chart open, I'm the whole time we're talking to Dan Leberfeld yesterday, I'm closing videos.
Yeah.
that are popping up and going. And they're not really causing me any harm. I can still see what I need to see, but just out of principle, I just get out of here. I don't want this right now.
Right.
Leave me alone.
Well, I'm on the reference sites every 5 minutes, and there's always a video that starts, and I can't help but close it before I'm clicking the next thing. I'm already planning to go to the next page, but I still have to close that video first.
Right.
And then there it is again.
Yeah.
Joe Ostrowski with Sam Panayotovich. He hosts Bet Sweats on the BetMGM network, weekday mornings, 9 to noon our time. Joe, how was your week 1?
Shout out to Dan Shonka and our lads. He's a good man. I love those depth charts. And also around draft time, Walter Football, another one. I'm like, wait, Sam, can you see me on the video right now? Because I've got 20 pop-ups right now because I pulled up the latest mock draft.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, these people got to pay the bills. They got to keep the lights on. I understand. Yeah. I mean, as do we, I suppose. I took a shot at us too, so equal opportunity offender. I am
only fair.
So how week 1? Thumbs up.
Thumb sideways. Pretty neutral. Win some, lose some. It was one of those as we're trying to figure out what exactly is going on. Yeah, right on some stuff, dead wrong on other stuff. It was kind of funny when you're wrong on something. Let's be way wrong. Let's be way wrong on the Steelers Jets under.
Yep.
Stuff like that. They all count as one loss, so those you can kind of chalk as an L and keep your day moving and just sweat out Denver Broncos survivor picks all afternoon. Something I wasn't expecting to be doing. And Sean Payton losing his mind, Callahan losing his mind as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the ironic thing about week 1 is that you couldn't lose in Survivor. It's the week when we know the least about who these teams are, but I was rooting against Denver because of that. It's, 12-10 in the third quarter maybe, but all the favorites, well, I don't know if they all won, Joe, but there were no traps, I guess I would say.
Yeah, if you got knocked out this week, what are you doing? Why are you trying to be the smartest guy in the room? I was looking at the guys that were knocked out or the people, and it's like, really? You went with the Patriots?
Right.
Bears Monday night? Why? I don't understand what you were thinking. Right. But yeah, not too many spots. A lot of unders, a lower scoring week. I'm sure Mike in fantasy, that stood out as well. Like a number of quarterbacks way under 200 passing yards. So the unders went 12-4. Almost every over that hit was a primetime game. Of course, Sunday night, Monday night, Friday night with the Chiefs and Chargers. Those were three of the 4 overs that hit. So it was a low-scoring week to get things going. I guess that typically does happen. And favorites won.
How about that? You're reminding me, I had the under on the Chiefs game, and I lost by 0.5 point. And the Dallas game was skyrocketing. It was going to the moon, and it just shut down.
It started raining.
At 45, almost unprecedented for a game with that many points in the first half to not get to the over. So it was kind of a strange week in that way. Minnesota, Chicago, how did that game ever get to the over with how it looked for most of it?
Right.
What did you think of Bills Ravens, Joe?
It was awesome, man.
What's there to say?
Yeah, I mean, it was phenomenal. I guess, yeah, Josh Allen proved he is the MVP. I guess you could make that argument. What it reminded me of was a question that you posed last week, and I'm sure it's something that you guys talked about all offseason, was how do we get to the Super Bowl and it's not one of these two teams? And you have Kansas City starting, and they end up losing. One of their key players goes down. And the idea was that Worthy was going to be a big part of the offense, I believe. Missing multiple weapons again on the offensive side to start the season. And then you had that shootout and everything that occurred in that game. Like, how are you going to knock out probably both of those teams to get to the Super Bowl? That's where I went, guys. If you're looking for value, how are you going to knock down those top 2 to 3 quarterbacks in the AFC? It's going to be tough for those teams further down. So that was my first thought immediately. You didn't need so much to go your way, if we're being honest, but it all happened in those last 4 minutes.
You did this morning make a really interesting case for Pittsburgh. Maybe not as a top-tier team or the answer to the last point, but as maybe a team that could have a good year.
Yeah, as far as this week, I'm typically an underdog player. I'm looking for value on the team that is not expected to win, and around the key numbers, I find that. And this week, there's one favorite that I like, and it is Pittsburgh. What Rodgers are we going to see moving forward? I'm not quite sure, but I am going to bank on Tomlin and that defense bouncing back. And part of it is, for this week, I'm selling hard on Seattle. I'm selling hard on Sam Darnold going to a new situation. What they do last week, put up 13, 14 points in that game against San Francisco. So I'm looking at sample size, and I'm willing to buy on Pittsburgh this week. Going home, the Rodgers debut there, and I'm going to trust that defense. And Seattle has a good defense as well, but I expect the Steelers to take care of them.
Yeah, I think that game is pretty interesting from the standpoint of the Seattle coach has a lot of familiarity with Pittsburgh, but not Pittsburgh with Rodgers, obviously, because he was never in the division while Rodgers was there. But the Jets, even though that game was 34-32, and Rodgers threw 4 touchdowns, the Jets did get to him. So I might expect Seattle to make some noise in the backfield on him. It really depends on how he holds up to it. Last week, he held up great.
Offensive line always the issue with Pittsburgh, right? That's usually what we end up talking about. Strong defense, of course, and we'll see about the run game now. But, yeah, I get it. And last week when we were talking about that Bills-Ravens line move, like, okay, what does this mean? And, my takeaway, not that I'm right, but my takeaway was it really doesn't mean anything because of where we are. But I would say that is not the case this week, guys. When we look at the line movement with the Jets, it tells me a lot of stuff. Not only do we have a change from the look ahead when they reopen the numbers to where we are at this very moment. So the look ahead, it was 8.5. Mm-hmm. And there are a number of reasons that people are betting the Jets, and which I can get into. Some of it could be viewed as garbage, some not so much. And then it starts at 7, and then they bet on the Jets immediately. Then it goes down to 6.5, and that is where most of the betting market is. That matters because you went through the 7. You went through the second biggest key number, I'd say, for the most part, after 3, which is 7. And now you have Circa Sports is a big sports book in Vegas. They're known for taking big bets. If you're a sharp player, they will take it. They have limits like every sports book, but it is much higher than just about any other sports book. Circa right now is at 5.5.
Really?
So they went through another kind of key number. You could call it a secondary key number down to 5.5. So there is a lot of money coming in on the Jets. My first guess, traditional stuff like the divisional home dog. They're coming off a loss. The offense looked good. You have a possible letdown. It was an all-in game for the Bills. How are they going to rebound from that? So I think there are a lot of different reasons for it. But, yeah, the smart money, as they would call it, is on the Jets. Smart money doesn't win everything. They just win more than the other guys.
Last 3 trips to the Jets have been close games for the Bills, and they've lost 2 of them, but they won last year by a field goal. So recent history, at least in that stadium, supports this. It's funny, like the Bills and Allen just completely own the Dolphins, but the Jet thing has been a little different. So it's been a little tougher for them. We'll see here. Joe Ostrowski with us on the West Shore Hotline. What do you like tonight?
I like the Commanders. If you're getting 3.5. What's interesting is some sports books are at 3 and some are at 3.5. I thought everybody would be at 3 at this point, but Green Bay is as public as it gets. So the public is all in on the Packers. I'm reading this week, as you guys are, they're the second best team in football. No, they're the third best team in football. Okay, all right. I'm seeing Philadelphia, Green Bay better than both teams that played on Sunday night. All right, I will sell that, but I see what you're doing there. Look, I got criticized for this, but I think the better quarterback is the underdog in this matchup. And we're a couple of people that have bet on Jordan Love for MVP in the past, and maybe this is the time as his odds get cut in half after one whole game. But I'm concerned about the Green Bay offensive line, the health there. They may be missing a couple of starters there. I'm not a fan of the Commanders' defense. I do think we'll see a little bit of regression here, but 3.5 points, guys, is too many for me, and we see it again. I don't see any reason to believe that Daniels is going to have a poor season. I like Debo's role to start, and McLaurin as well on the offense. I think it's going to end up being at least a field goal game, and Washington's going to hang. Green Bay, the home team, has the advantage on Thursday night football, but early in the season, I don't think the travel's that big of a deal. I do like Washington here.
Okay. Any props?
Not a ton, but one I was looking at is Debo, and his receptions is set at 4.5. He had, 10 targets last week, 7 grabs, I believe, for 77 yards and got the touchdown. The nickelback, if any aspect of Green Bay's defense did not look good, it would be the nickel, and Debo was playing out of the slot a lot last week, so I think that would be a way for Washington to attack this Green Bay defense, as they're watching out for Micah Parsons and the rest of that fierce pass rush tonight. So get rid of the ball quickly. I think Debo's going to be involved once again.
If we didn't already cover it earlier, I watched your segment, or at least a big part of the segment from today's show with your buddy Sam about survivor picks. Mm-hmm. And Pittsburgh was one that you liked, and I think was it Sam that likes Dallas? Just looking down the road at when there will be a better time to use either one of those teams plays into that, right? Yeah,
so Sam's in with a group of guys in the Circa one, and he said they're going Buffalo. Like, that's what his partners want to do, and that's not my recommendation. That is not something that I would be doing, but I understand the idea that you think they're going to win. Let's just win, and we'll march on. It looks like, if you look at projected spreads for upcoming games, the Bills' point spread is likely to be the highest next week, in week 4, and in week number 5. So I would save Buffalo. There are going to be too many spots to go there. If you're in a small pool, my recommendation is just go the Ravens and move on. There's a reason it's the only game that is above 7 and it's above 10. That's what I would do coming off this loss. I don't see them starting 0-2 on the season. Divisional matchup might scare some people, but come on. I would go with the Ravens there. If you're looking down the board, yes, I think Dallas is a good option. I brought up Pittsburgh as well, and I'm looking at some of the other games near the top. You know, the Chargers are favored by more than a field goal. I'm not interested after the Brazil trip. I mentioned that I think Washington is going to make this a game. I would not go Green Bay. I would not go Cincinnati against Jacksonville. That's more than a field goal. The Bengals, they had an awful start again. I don't care that they won, guys. They should have ended up losing that game. Arizona, a little dicey, but they're favored by 7 now. I don't love Kyler at home. That game scares me a little bit, but I think people are going a little too far. Oh, Bryce Young sucks. We're back to how he was in the beginning of last year.
Right.
And, this sounds strange when you look at the box score, but watching every snap of that game, I liked what I saw out of Cam Ward. I mean, they had, 7 first downs, 133 yards.
Yep.
I get it, but there were so many drops, and it was the worst possible spot on the road against probably the best defense in football. I know the Rams have a good defense, but he's coming home. I think he's going to get better as the season goes on and on. Maybe they end up hanging in that game, and it looks like the interior of that Rams offensive line is hobbled, so watch out for Simmons. So the Titans would actually scare me a little bit going home.
Survivor is simply not where I do my best work. I feel like my process is which pick, if I lose, will I feel the least stupid about? That's it. 3-point favorite is a 3-point favorite. 7 is a 7. Like, I can read the numbers, but like you're great here, Joe. Like, you're going basically through all these games. Yeah, but this, yeah, but this. I know Trista likes the Rams, and rookie quarterback. Like, okay, but there's always a but, and
Yeah.
it's just not where I do my best work. So we'll throw a dart here at somebody.
I don't know. I feel like I don't know anything about the lines right now. As ridiculous as that sounds. And Ben Johnson has had this game circled. I know people are laughing at the Bears with the way it ended on Monday night, but he's had this game circled, and they had no run game to speak of. That offense needs to go through the run. I get it. Goff at home. Not everyone, but most are expecting a bounce back. I don't feel comfortable taking the Lions at this point. I want a larger sample without Ben Johnson and without Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, first couple times I glanced at the schedule, I wasn't really sure what to do. Then I watched this segment I mentioned with you and Sam this morning, and I decided Dallas. Because I've gone out in your thing, that I think 2 years now, or maybe, I think 2 years, real early. And I've never really, taken advice. I just sort of looked at it and just made my own pick, because I'm a man. And I thought, let me listen to the guys who know what the hell's going on here. And all right, I'm gonna tell, whether you guys are on Dallas or not. You suggested it as a credible idea. I'm like, yeah, all right, I'm doing it.
Might be your last chance to go against Russ.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you said that on the show, and that stuck with me.
This is also the game Detroit lost last year, week 2 at home to Tampa, which probably murdered a lot of people in that survivor pool. Then they lost to the Bills in December. That was it. Okay, Joe, always a pleasure. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy it.
Joe Ostrowski, Bet Sweats, weekday mornings on the Bet 1520 and the Odyssey app, 9 to noon, also on YouTube. Yeah, I've gotten into the habit of watching them every day now, which is, it's fun.
Yep.
I don't even really bet. Every once in a while, I feel the need to say that. A little bit. I got a $10 freebie today.
Mm-hmm.
So we're on Washington with that. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Sal Capaccio at 4. What's up with Ed Oliver? We'll find out what Sal knows. This is WGR.
It's been so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When every day life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over, it's about time. Oh, all sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. Roller coaster. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole of life. And now it's about to leave. Oh, roller coaster.
Welcome back. We'll talk to Sal in about 10 minutes.
Roller coaster.
I saw a report today that Buffalo scored a 42.1 TV rating number for Sunday's
is that
game.
good?
It's good.
Is that high? It seems high.
What is that then? 42.1%
Of TVs.
households with televisions.
Correct.
Not that we're on.
I believe that's how that works, yes.
So, what does that number sound like?
It sounds about right.
It's huge for TV rating.
But what always stands out to me is how many people don't watch.
Exactly. That means 4 out of 7 households in Western New York did not watch the game.
It always feels like, we're in this world. We're immersed in it. Obviously, it's our jobs, our careers. And so we're surrounded, I think, largely by people who are interested in that. It's who we talk to, and a lot of our friends are similarly inclined. But whenever I see a number like that, I always think, who are these almost 60% of people who don't care?
It isn't everybody.
Right.
It seems like it's everybody, but it isn't everybody.
I remember making this point and getting some credit for it in the newspaper back in '98 when the first sort of public money telethon began to get the stadium refurbished. I said back then, I know the ratings are huge and it seems like we all care, but less than half the population watches. And that should count for something, because at that time we were also new to this. It was like people calling me saying, "I don't care about Shays or the theater." I'm like, okay, but other people do. You got to support everything. So anyway, it always stands out to me. The other end of that is what I always notice.
I went to the dentist on Monday morning, and people were asking each other about the game. I mean, right in the morning after. And 2 or 3 people in a row, including one of the dentists who was working on my mouth. She was like, no, I didn't see it. She knew who won, but she didn't see it. She's like, yeah, I'm not really into it. So, like, okay, it's not everybody.
Right.
How do you? By the way, dentists, that's what they do. They work on your mouth.
Yeah.
That's what she was doing that day
That's
at
what I've
work.
heard. That's what I've heard.
With my mouth. She was
Happens
working on it.
at the dentist.
As a dentist would. Sal Capaccio after the update here on WGR.
Rough news today for the Buffalo Bills, courtesy of the injury report. Defensive tackle Ed Oliver was a new addition. He was listed as did not practice due to an ankle issue. Our own Sal Capaccio did report that he saw Oliver in a walking boot and on his left foot, and he was using a scooter. We'll get more on today. Sal Capaccio does join the show next. Other injury notes, with today just being a walkthrough. 6 players were limited: Greg Rousseau, Dawson Knox, and Trey White for a second straight day. Jordan Hancock, a new addition with a shoulder, and then Shaq Thompson and Taron Johnson were elevated to limited after not practicing yesterday. Everyone else was a full participant. While for the Jets, cornerback Sauce Gardner was limited with a groin, and wide receiver Josh Reynolds did not practice today due to a hamstring. That is the Barnes Firm Injury Report. It's brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured? For help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. Thursday Night Football tonight, the Packers do host the Washington Commanders. Kickoff over on Amazon Prime just after 8:15. Our coverage, though, right here on WGR will get underway at 7:30. Chiefs wide receiver Xavier Worthy is back to practice today as he deals with a dislocated shoulder, and Bucs wide receiver Chris Godwin was back practicing today. That is the first time for him since last season. And then in baseball, Bison's at Rochester just after 6. That game can be heard on our sister station, the Bet 1520. Jays are currently up on Houston 3-0 in the 4th, and then just after 7, the Yankees will host the Tigers. The Jays do still hold that 3-game lead in the AL East. And then also just after 7, Mets at Phillies. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Sal Capaccio.
Filling up right behind the Bills bench right now with their flags and their hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. Let's go Buffalo chant.
How is Xavier Worthy practicing? Is a dislocated shoulder now the latest thing? You can just sort of no biggie?
I don't know.
Less than a week later? Good for him.
Significant padding, I saw. I didn't see a picture of it. Maybe there was one, but I read a caption that just said there's a lot going on there. Just to try to protect him. So, I don't know. Maybe it's for show. I have no idea what they're doing.
Wow.
It would be stunning if he played with suffering that injury last week to me.
Oh, my God. Definitely. It was right there, maybe out for the year with him, but he didn't have the torn labrum, so I guess he avoided that, but he's already back on the field? Wow. Sal Capaccio with us on the West Her Hotline. We're talking about the Bills-Jets rivalry. I guess I'll just use the word earlier. It's funny how the Jets are just like different from the Dolphins and the Patriots, I guess I would say, Sal. And, you had the Brady years, of course, where New England was just way too much, and the 70s with the Dolphins. The Jets and the Bills, though, are rarely good at the same time through the years. Late 90s might be the last time it was true. So they're sort of like in a different category for me.
Yeah, I think back to maybe early 80s. The first playoff game I ever remember watching was Bill Simpson, the interception at the end on Richard Todd, right? Jets, Shea Stadium at the time, right? And then kind of both teams, really, the Jets were pretty good a little bit, I guess, there in the 80s for a hot minute. In mid-80s, they weren't bad. They had that epic playoff game in Cleveland that goes into overtime. The Jets, then when the Bills wind up getting, Jim Kelly and them, Kelly's first game is against the Jets, but the Jets kind of went on the decline. The Bills go on the upswing, and then, I guess for a little while in the 90s there was a bit of a rivalry, and then of course, the Jets now are going through what the Bills did. It's really crazy to think about that the Bills had this 17-year playoff drought and they break it, but now the Jets are going through their drought of their own, and it's already at 14 years, which is crazy.
Yeah. We'll get to the Oliver news, of course, here. But, man, that Browns game you mentioned, holy cow, Bulldog.
Yeah.
Remember this game?
I don't.
This is the week before the drive, right?
Okay.
Yes,
so
that's right.
Cleveland would win the game and go on to face Denver and lose in the AFC Championship. But, Sal, the Jets, I've watched this game a few times. The Jets are up 10 late. We just saw what the Bills did. Mm-hmm. Not too different. Like, the Jets were up 10 late in Cleveland, and the Browns got him eventually in overtime. Mark Mosley is the Browns kicker, and he missed one from like 20 yards or something to keep the game going, but then he eventually wins it. So I'm glad to think about that game here. Mid-'80s Jets, Gastineau, like They had a nice run.
The sack exchange.
The sack exchange.
Yes, New York Sack Exchange.
All right.
You ever watch the special on that?
I don't. I have not.
30 for 30 on it. I think. I don't. A lot of these run together now. The 30 for 30s and all those things, and it's really good actually. And like there was like animosity. They didn't like each other. I think Klecko and Gastineau, and Marty Lyons.
Marty
right?
Lyons.
Was the other guy.
I can't think of the fourth guy. I was just running through the thing in my head just as you said the names. And Marty Lyons was the third guy. Klecko and Gastineau, I remember. I don't know who the fourth guy is. Maybe there were two of him.
It might have been a 3-4.
I thought it was only three guys.
Oh, okay. Then it's okay. There you go. Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Marty
Lyons is giving him the business.
But anyway, there was a real good They didn't really like each other, Klecko and Gastineau, to be honest with you. Kind of interesting.
All right, so sorry to bury the lead. Oliver in a boot. What happened?
We don't know. Bills held a walkthrough today. So when we got the media schedule earlier in the week, the Bills were going to have a practice today, like a normal Thursday. We'd go out there, we'd watch, then we'd go talk to players. We got an update today that the team was going to hold a walkthrough. Now, I don't know this for sure. My assumption is they went pretty hard yesterday. Let's get their legs back, get the body back. Let's do a walkthrough today. Go over everything, make sure the details are buttoned up. When they have a walkthrough, the media does not watch the practice. So we were told, okay, yep, we'll have the walkthrough, and then you guys can come in like normal and talk to players. So we get there a little after noon today. Their walkthrough was done. Go in the locker room, and I see Ed Oliver playing ping pong. And I look down. He's got a boot on his left foot. I didn't think too much of it other than, okay, that's not good. He's got a boot on his left foot. But the reason I say I didn't think too much of it is because he's playing ping pong. Right. He's got a boot on. And and honestly, I've done this long enough where I will tell you guys, I've seen guys in boots a lot, and it just a lot of times it's precaution. The most common one when you talk about stuff like this is when the guy goes into the locker room during a game or he gets injured during a game, then after the game you see him in a walking boot and everybody's like, oh my God, he's in a walking boot. And he's fine like 3 days later. It's just like, they wanted to make sure everything was good, keep like swelling down or whatever, right? So I'm not thinking anything of it. But then when he's done playing ping pong, he gets on a scooter and he's riding around on a scooter and he's not putting any weight on it. And you're like, okay, what's going on here? Then we find out he did not practice today. He practiced yesterday. I was out there. I have video of him in pads in practice yesterday. So somewhere between then and now, something happened. We just don't know to the level or extent of that something happening.
Right. If he had been hurt, I know he talked with the media yesterday after practice too.
Right.
And Mike and I were talking about this off the air. He would have been listed on the injury report yesterday if something happened during that practice, right?
That is correct. Unless it happened like at the very, very end, he didn't miss any reps or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, you'd be literally doing like sprints afterwards and roll your ankle or something like that. That's possible. But yes, Bulldog. But generally, if something happened at practice and he left, he'd have to be listed as limited.
Well, I mean, here is Captain Obvious, but it's a big injury.
He was maybe the best player on the field defensively for the Bills on Sunday.
For sure. And, I mean, now you're facing a really good running game. And Breece Hall and the Jets and what they did last week to the to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I mean they'd really be missing Ed Oliver if he's not out there. And what does that mean for them? Well, number one, it would most likely mean that TJ Sanders would become a starter and play a lot. So would Deion Walker, but those would be the guys. But he would probably fill in for him. And number two is you'd have to elevate somebody. Now, they did sign another defensive lineman this week, Vidarian Mathis, who was literally he was a top 50 pick, I believe, like just 3 years ago. But for anybody to think, well, they signed him, so they must have known he was hurt. That's not the case. They signed him 2 days ago at Oliver practice yesterday. So it might just be fortunate that they signed him because you might need another guy. And I'm not saying it's necessarily him, but now at least you have a guy there at practice, and then you have a guy, another option. And my guess would be it would be Jordan Phillips or Zion Logue. But you're not going to roll into the Jets in the Meadowlands with 3 defensive tackles.
And the next time we'll get any sort of update will be tomorrow morning on the Extra Point Show, right? When you talk to Coach McDermott.
Good plug. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes. Sean McDermott will be on the Extra Point Show tomorrow. Don't really know what time yet. It's always generally between 10:30 and 11:30. It just depends on the schedule for them and his other production meetings, but I would say between 10:30 and 11:30 most likely.
Got to hope that it's not a ping pong injury for the sake of that table. To have the ping pong table in the locker room, that could be it for the table.
What is playing ping pong with one of those boots on like anyway? Like I mean, it's not the most active lateral movement sport or activity. If I don't know, sport might be pushing it, but whatever. It's in the Olympics. Nonetheless,
it is.
That just seems a little nutty to me that he'd be in that boot playing ping pong.
Right to me too. Like as far as like, okay, he's playing ping pong. Like he's putting some weight. He's standing on it, right? And he wasn't playing ping pong on the scooter, by the way. He was literally standing on the foot.
That could be a fun sport.
But it's also ping pong. It's not like he was moving around like Jessica Pegula at the U.S. Open, right? And trying to chase from baseline to sideline.
Smaller
and all that.
court, yes.
Right.
But you're not standing still, is all. I mean, you're not going to be successful. Although he's a big guy, the wingspan. I don't know. We'll spend some more time later, perhaps, analyzing ping pong in a walking boot. Is Oliver for you, Sal, through the years? Like, is he, if you will, properly rated? Is he somebody who gets the credit he deserves, or you think he's maybe underrated or overrated, or what?
I think he's about right for most fans, most media, and what I think the perception of him is, which is accurate. He's really talented, but he's inconsistent, and you can see the flashes like we saw last Sunday. He's had games like that before, maybe not as an impactful play like we had on Sunday night with him stripping the ball in that situation. But I remember back in Dallas on Thanksgiving in 2019, he was just awesome in that game. And he's had some games like that over the years, and then there's been other games where you kind of don't notice him and he disappears. And a lot of that is circumstantial with him because of his style and his size. Like he kind of needs someone paired next to him that could gain some attention because then he gets one-on-ones and he can penetrate. When Ed Oliver's one-on-one, he's really tough, especially when he's not going against this like behemoth, really large, guy across from him who might be able to just kind of swallow him up a little bit, if you will. But even then, he's fast enough, he's quick enough. But double teams are tough for him because he's an undersized guy. But I think he's properly rated because I think most people think he's a really talented guy who just hasn't had the consistency throughout the years that you want to see on a week-to-week basis. He goes on heaters sometimes, like 2-3 weeks in a row, and then it's like, where's that Oliver been the last couple of games?
Mm-hmm. By the way, why a walkthrough today?
Like, I don't know if I mentioned it when I was saying it earlier. My guess is because, and I don't know this, probably because they had a harder practice yesterday and they want to get their, they do a lot. The Bills do a lot with sports science, and they really do. They have the monitors on everybody, and they monitor all their heart rates, movements, everything, all the work they do on a daily basis. And it's very possible. You remember yesterday they went full pads, right, on a Wednesday. And Sean McDermott said this has to be this week needs to be hard. And I would think that maybe they looked at all that data and said, let's back off them a little bit today. Make sure you get their bodies right. Make sure you get their legs back under them. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Now,
they do play next Thursday, too, by the way.
That is right. That's a good point, Bulldog. And you also, if you want to do like so full pads yesterday, it's kind of rare on a Wednesday. But if you try to do that later in the season, I don't even think you can. I think there's rules in the CBA, which after a certain point, you can't even have padded practices like that. So, like, if you're going to do that and you're going to catch up on any reps or whatever you're trying to do, then I think the only time to do that is like now until the middle of the season.
Apologies if you did answer my question from earlier, or earlier when you were talking. Sal Capaccio on the Wester hotline, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Did we yesterday get to the punter change? I'm not sure we did.
We did not.
I don't think we've talked to you about that move. I mean, Robbins didn't have a strong game. Were you surprised that they would make a move like that so quickly?
Yes, I was very surprised he was let go that quickly because I didn't see anything that would have necessarily, from my vantage point, warranted. But this is a great lesson in we don't know what the job is from the coaches sometimes. We don't know what the assignment is. We don't know what's exactly being expected and asked of them to do. And apparently it was something that they didn't want, whatever he was doing was not exactly up to what they wanted him to do. I asked Sean McDermott specifically about it on Monday, like why did they make the punting change? And he just said that, they're always looking to improve and it wasn't where they wanted it to be. So whatever that means, I'm not sure. But the guy they brought in, Cameron Johnston, he's Australian. He was I think he's with the Eagles too, but Houston Texans, Pittsburgh Steelers, and he had one punt last year. And then he got hurt, maybe on that punt even, or two punts maybe. First game. Mm-hmm. And he tears his ACL. and he doesn't punt all
in his
year.
kicking leg, by the way, right?
And then now he's back, and I reached out to my buddy John Harris, who covers the Texans. You guys have talked to the sideline reporter, and I said, hey, tell me a little bit about the guy. He's like, he can really bomb it. Like, he can really flip the field if you need that, and that's the book on him. Like, he he was 3rd and 8th, I think, respectively, in yards per punt in his rookie year of 18 and the next year in 19. So the guy's got a leg. But I think the overall point is here that, hey, they moved on from a punter after one game when they kept him throughout the preseason, and he was the only guy they had, and it seemed like they were kind of set there. I guess they apparently weren't.
I wonder how much, certainly the performance of the punter would be the number one factor, but I wonder if the fact that they didn't spend all spring and summer building chemistry with a kicker and a holder and a snapper made it easier for them to do it, right? Because Prater's here, he doesn't work with this guy barely, right? And so, when Bass was going well earlier in his career, I remember you making the point, when people were upset about the punter, I don't know, maybe it was Sam Martin or whoever it was, be like, yeah, they really like that part of it, and that chemistry is important, and maybe that offsets whatever you might be lacking in the actual job of punting the ball. That really is not pertinent right now, given their kicking situation.
Yeah, exactly. I think the entire operation has to be on point, and they have kind of tinkered with some things over the last year or two. Tyler Bass obviously has had his struggles, and sometimes we talk about the holder, sometimes we talk about Tyler Bass himself. Then you have the injury to Tyler Bass. They didn't go out and sign anybody. They had two kickers. They had two punters this preseason. They wind up getting to just Brad Robbins, and now suddenly Brad Robbins is gone. So the entire operation matters. Everything matters when it comes to the snapper, the punter, the holder, the kicker, and all that. And we don't know exactly what's exactly important to everyone in those situations.
So now the Bills have a kicker and a punter whose 2024 seasons were cut short by knee injuries. That's the case with Prater too. Johnston from Australia, is he going to have a unique style? Do we know that? I don't remember, watching him in his career prior to this. So
not sure. We'll find out.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, some of these guys, they drop the ball a little different. The ball spins a little different. All those kinds of things.
Running start to the side even. He'll wear number 16 for the Bills, I believe, Johnston.
Yes.
Sal, are you buying the Jets?
I don't know what buying means. Like, am I buying that they're getting better or they'll be improved? Yeah. Am I buying that they're suddenly a threat to the Bills? No. Could they win this week? Sure. I mean, anything can happen, right? I mean, if the Bills lose this week, funny thing is, everybody's 0-1 except for the Bills, right, in the AFC East. But if the Jets win, the Bills drop to third automatically because they would all be, because the Jets would be 1-1 and have head-to-head, and the winner of the Miami Dolphins New England Patriots game would have a division win when the Bills would have a division loss. So the Bills would automatically drop to third place. So it's possible that could happen. I don't think that the Jets are a serious threat to the Bills right now. I like the fact that the Jets, I think, are changing their culture with Aaron Glenn. I like the fact that what I've seen so far in week 1 looks promising to them, that they can run the ball really well. I'm not sold on Justin Fields. I think that that's still you might get a really nice game one day and then you're like, we can't really have this guy as our long-term quarterback. And they have some talented players, obviously.
I think what is interesting there, and I say this as somebody that I think likes Fields more than consensus myself. I feel like the ceiling is like the Tua ceiling, or, what Dalton was for the Bengals, or Tannehill, one of these guys that look out. I mean, if they win 9 games, a huge improvement over last year, and, he generally plays like he did on Sunday, some, big stuff in that game against the Steelers, they're going to want to keep going with him, I think. And maybe that's the right decision, but it's easier when you fall apart and then end up
just
starting over. Right. Yeah. I think he kind of provides that possible outcome here for them, which, is not to say that he's bad or anything. I just don't know if he can be great.
Yeah. I think that the Jets probably eventually will have to move on, from Justin Fields and make that decision. But I think that right now, he offers them an ability to do some things that might work even against the Bills after what you saw last week. And he has the potential to put up, some numbers at times, given what he can do with his legs.
Okay. You guys have a thought on the Brock Purdy injury with the Niners? The Niners have a bunch of injuries again. They say 2 to 5 weeks now on Purdy, so it'll be
wow,
Mac
really?
Jones.
That many?
Yeah, that was
no.
one
But
report.
real quick before I go, I do want to tell you, Sauce Gardner showed up on the Jets injury report today with a groin injury. He was limited, so it's something to watch.
Okay.
Now, according, however, to Mike Garafolo, who followed it up, did say that he was walking around the locker room without any seemingly great concern after practice. So it's just something to monitor here.
Yep.
Josh Reynolds also shows up on their injury report limited with a hamstring injury. So I just want to make sure we got that in there.
Yeah, good. Was there? And I got one more note before we wrap up. Not about Brock Purdy. Sorry, Mike.
That's all right.
Was there anything else notable on the Bills' injury report, Sal, that we should keep our eyes on?
I think mostly positive stuff. So real quick, the reason I say that, let's go through that. Taron Johnson returned today after missing yesterday. He was limited with the quad. We talked to him after practice today, after the walkthrough. Seemed like that was what was going well. Tre'Davious White, he spoke again today to the full media, and he was limited, but it feels like he's trending in the right direction, right? he specifically said, we were like, hey, what do you think about Sunday? He's like, you guys know I can't tell you about that stuff. I'll get in trouble from Coach McDermott. So, he's kind of having some fun with it, so we don't know. But that's trending pretty well, I think, there. And then I think really good news to see, because he's a running back, you see hamstring, James Cook, he was limited yesterday. So nothing happened yesterday, obviously, because he was a full participant today in practice, which was good.
The other note is my friend Dave texted me to let me know that there was indeed a fourth member of the New York Sack Exchange, Abdul Salam, the late Abdul Salam. He died just a little less than a year ago.
He made it to the mid-'80s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was there. He predated all of them, but they all got together and he played. He was a part of that group.
He's not there anymore on the team we're talking about, like the Cleveland game. But yeah, he was a Jet for several years. That's right.
Yeah.
All right, Sal. So nothing. You guys on Brock Purdy? You refuse to talk about him. Interesting. Bulldog just will not engage.
I just had other stuff I wanted to get to, and mostly I wanted to mention my friend Dave.
Yeah, that was more important. Questions about the injury report. I'm sure the Jets' preparation is all different, not knowing whether Trey White will play on Sunday. Sal, thanks.
You got it, guys. Thank you.
There's our Sal Capaccio on the Wester Hotline. His appearance is brought to you by New York's only outlet, Liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? Yeah, he's on the Jets from 76 to 83, so the front end, 81 is when they get together. Salam, Gastineau, Klecko, Lions. They go to the AFC title game in 82.
Yes.
Right. Lose to Miami. He's on that team.
That's right.
And then shortly thereafter, he's
strike year.
Done. Yeah.
A.J. Dewey.
Okay.
AFC Championship.
I believe you.
14-0, maybe the final score.
What did you want to know about Brock Purdy?
I don't know. Just it's Mac Jones time in San Francisco kind of suddenly. Purdy played on Sunday, finished the game, but now he's got turf toe and something else.
Shoulder.
So he's out for at least a couple weeks, apparently. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here at 803-0550, talking about the Jets, the rivalry through the years, and some of that earlier, and whether you're buying them as a, respectable team this year. It's been a while, but they had a pretty good week one, even though they lost. We'll be right back after sports. This is WGR.
Rough news on the Bills injury report today. Defensive tackle Ed Oliver, a new addition. He did not practice due to an ankle issue. Our own Sal Capaccio did report that Oliver was seen today in a walking boot on his left foot, and he was using a scooter. Some other injury notes, with today being a walkthrough, 6 players were limited. Greg Rousseau, Dawson Knox, and Trey White for a second straight day. Jordan Hancock, a new addition with a shoulder, and then Shaq Thompson and Teron Johnson were elevated after not practicing yesterday. Everyone else, though, was a full participant. And then for the Jets, cornerback Sauce Gardner was limited with a groin, and wide receiver Josh Reynolds did not practice today due to a hamstring. The Barnes Firm Injury Report, it is brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured? For help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. Thursday Night Football tonight as the Packers will host Washington. Kickoff over on Amazon Prime is just after 8:15. Our coverage, though, right here on WGR. We'll get underway at 7:30. And then in baseball, Bison's at Rochester just after 6. That game can be heard on our sister station, the Bet 1520. And then in the majors currently going on right now, the Blue Jays, they are up on Houston 4-0 in the 6th. And currently right now, the Jays do hold a 3-game lead in the AL East over the Yankees. The Yankees will play a little bit later after 7, hosting the Tigers. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
There's stuff that happens like during games that guys say stuff. It takes you overboard. Like that. Some of those things happen previous years with the Jets. So they act, I act, we act, they act, I act, we act. It's like kind of like a Ferris wheel type of thing. It just hits this point and just keeps going. But I would rather it be like that. I like high intensity, high energy, high angry games. I have so many different alter persons. I'm Dion, I'm the snowman, and then I become like the abominable snowman when it comes to the Jets. I don't know.
The Yeti. Dion Dawkins.
You ever start saying something that you know is being heard by people and suddenly realize, I'm not sure I love how that sounds. That's how that sounded to me. I love his personality, but when he said abominable snowman, it's like, did I just say that?
I do know the feeling. I just asked Sal how he thinks San Francisco will do without Brock Purdy. I do know the feeling. The Yeti would be a pretty good nickname for Dawkins.
I like Snowman a lot. I mean, I think that is an ace's nickname for that dude.
I am almost all the way through, finally, that baseball book, the Baseball 100, Joe Posnanski. And Walter Johnson might have been in the top 10. And he was Big Train.
I love Big Train.
And I think it was Monday morning when I was listening to his chapter. I'm like, that would have been a great nickname for Alan.
Yeah.
Big Train.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that. I really think of all the famous nicknames in baseball, and obviously this player predates my lifetime by a lot of years. Reading about him as a kid and seeing that his nickname was Big Train, I swear is something that pushed me towards loving baseball. I just thought it was just such a badass nickname, man. Like, Big Train is so good.
Yeah. I don't even think he was that big. Big for the times.
Yeah.
Right, 100 years ago.
Yeah.
How tall was Walter Johnson? I'm going to say like 6'1" or something like that.
Right.
Not exactly Randy Johnson or even Steve Palazzolo for that matter.
I wonder, it's been a long time since I've read about him or watched even Ken Burns' baseball documentary where he would have been, featured in a subject. I wonder if it even just pertains to if people called his fastball the Big Train. Maybe. I'm guessing only because I wouldn't think he was that big.
He was 6'1".
All right. That is giant for the era he was.
I guess. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here at 803-0550. I saw a nugget from Evan Abrams of the Action Network today. 2 coaches in the last 20 years in Week 2 games are 4-0 or better against the spread. He's alluded to how, like, Week 2, you might have called it adjustment week, right? So Week 2, maybe that's like a sign of a good coach if they win and cover, or at least cover in Week 2. 2 coaches in the last 20 years, 4-0 or better in Week 2. They're both coaching tonight.
Oh, wow. All right.
Matt LaFleur is 6-0 against the spread in week 2, and Dan Quinn is 7-0. So push tonight. So both coaches can keep the clean sheet.
Right.
Green Bay -3, or 3.5. Not going to be a push if it's 3.5 though. Bulldog.
That's hard to do.
That won't work.
As hard as you try to introduce fractions into these final scores,
I know
that's not how they do it.
I know. So it's only one game Sunday, but one thing I heard a lot in the offseason about the Bills' chances, you would hear this kind of thing said, and even maybe by them, or like by Sean McDermott perhaps, or Brandon Beane. I don't know if they would have said it, but that they have to be less about Josh Allen than they've been. Less on his plate, right? That kind of stuff. And so what happened in week 1? Well, they weren't exactly that.
He had to do some pretty heavy lifting in the fourth quarter.
He had to save it.
Lifting, yeah.
They stole the game. I don't know. What does that mean? Their running back had 16 rushing touchdowns last year. Now that's some amount of
and he had one on Sunday.
And he had one on Sunday. Taking
off to a good start.
Some of the burden off of Allen. But this game did not exactly, as exciting as it was, bring that to the conversation that,
no.
Because if they'd won the game in a more normal fashion, and Allen has, modest statistics and isn't the offensive player of the week for the 16th time or whatever it is, then that's a compliment they would get. Is what maybe this year is different because they didn't need him to just be the savior.
Right. Sort of like the playoff game last year. Like they won by taking the ball away, and Mark Andrews dropping a pass. I mean, that would have only tied the game, but still, his stats were pretty modest in the playoff game, and they still scored 27 points and won the game. That's what 3 turnovers to 0 can do for you, and maybe even should do for you. It doesn't always, but still. It's funny. Like I don't know if McDermott, I can't recall if they actually said that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. And I certainly wouldn't be surprised if they hadn't said it if they think it anyways, that they would like to. And that doesn't have to be, across the board every week, and certainly once you get to the end of the season, but it's a little reminiscent of Beane making the point about, Allen running in week 2 or whatever in October or whatever the example was he used a few years ago. It's like, we know we have a tsunami we can unleash when it's time, but let's make sure we're mindful of how often it's time, because you don't want to, wear that out. You certainly don't want to, abuse it is too strong, but, just wear it out and have it not be as effective as you want it to be when the games are that much more important. But obviously Sunday night they needed him to do some heavy lifting, and he was up to it. So hopefully you get into a pocket of the schedule here. Like, you're going to not get – I love the stats, and I love seeing Allen be the offensive player of the week, and he's got 394 passing yards already on the season, which is, awesome if you want to see him throw for 4,500 yards, right? And have another season where you can credibly say, I think he should be the MVP. It's off to a great start. But now that he's got that in his pocket already from last year, if they go – sort of – how I talked, this time last week, is there a score with the Bills winning that would annoy you? Like, no, 2-0, fine. I don't care what. So if he throws for 118 yards and they beat the Jets, I'm gonna be fine. There'll be style questions. So is their offense okay? What's wrong with it? Do they have enough here or there or whatever? All that stuff to just sort of keep the wheels turning conversationally for us. But in my heart of hearts, you got another win. If you're going to truly adhere to what matters the most is what happens with this team in January, I don't want to get too hung up on style points in September. What matters is that you keep pace with, or stay ahead of the teams that you expect to be chasing you for the 1 seed. So all I really need to do is win games. So I'm all right if it's modest, for a while here, but when you need it, it's nice to know you can break that glass.
You would say that then about this game too?
Sure.
No score would.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because really, I mean, are you saying you only care about January just to say it, or do you mean it? Because if you mean it, then I think you have to just take whatever comes. I'm not saying there won't be criticism of it or concern about it, but in the end, all I really want is, I want W's, as many of them as I can get, so I can get that 1 seed.
Sure. We probably should start using 3-0 for this point rather than 2, because 2 sounds like just ridiculous.
Yeah.
How? But I think, you're running 2 races. The real one, which is the standings, then the one out here, the power rankings community, and are they actually good enough to do it? And maybe almost disappointingly, that conversation always ends with, you never know. No matter what these games look like, you still just never know what will happen in the playoffs, whether they're better or different or they're luckier or whatever. You really can't answer those questions. I think the game Sunday that would make people feel the best about them, though, is a really good defensive performance, because that's what they did not get Sunday night. And the Jets, if the Jet-Steeler game had been under 36, like the line, 20-17 or even less, then I'm not sure how impressed people would be by even that.
Right.
Because, what are the Jets? But they were so productive against Pittsburgh that I think that kind of game would be met with, a lot of excitement, that maybe we're not in bad shape at all on that side of the ball. We'll see. It's so early that things are going to change a lot. The Jets here, it's, a new coach and a new quarterback, and the Bills are the monster in the division that has, they've won 5 years in a row, and this is another division rival's next turn at trying to change that script. And, it might be the kind of thing where if you're a Jet fan, your expectations this year are probably pretty low, but if you lose another game like you lost to Pittsburgh, you can kind of go, this is exciting and maybe promising, but I'm 0-2 now, and I've lost my home game to the heavy division favorite, so I think I might just have to enjoy this for it just not being miserable football. That's going to be good enough. Let's go to George next. Hi, George.
Hey, nice listening to you guys again.
Thank you.
I think Bulldog was looking for a word there with Allen. I think maybe he was trying to say that we could try to keep it conventional for Allen until we need Josh Allen to be Josh Allen. Maybe conventional was the word. It was a few minutes ago.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was struggling to find a word to describe what I was trying to get across. I thought I did, but conventional is suits fine. So thank you.
It's a good word. Right?
Sure. Did I miss something? No. Was I in here bumping into walls?
No,
whatever. I think I was trying to help.
The caller
thought
of another way you could have described.
I didn't know I was needed help.
It is. I think it is correct.
Yeah, of course. I think it fits what I was saying.
Yes.
Yeah, but I didn't know that
Yes.
there was a big blank space in the commentary, and maybe there was, and I missed it.
I can't speak to what people hear. Maybe we went out for a couple seconds.
Yeah, that's possible.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, George. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog at 803-0550. This is WGR. Let's talk about something that's important, your electrical system at home or with your business. Whatever it is Welcome back. We're into Bills Jets Sunday at 1 here on WGR. We'll look at it from a new angle shortly. Bulldog, some tough quarterback lineup decisions this week. I kept sort of scrolling through all my stuff, and I don't have that many teams that have Allen, Jackson, Daniels, Hurts. I almost have no Burrow. I was never interested in Burrow because I can't get the running stuff. So not having many of those guys, I've got a lot of the guys in the middle. And these projections this week, there's like 10 of them, it seems, who are right around 20 points. So I'm going to have to just sort of
take a
toughen
flyer
up and pick one. For instance,
you should call a show and ask the host who you should choose.
I'm doing almost exactly that right now. Jordan Love is one of them. Love, Mayfield, Drake May at Miami, Prescott with the Giants, Trevor Lawrence at the Bengals, Caleb Williams, Justin Fields, like Mahomes. These guys are all at my stuff like 20, 21 points. And I don't know, it makes for tough decisions.
Who's Tampa got?
Houston, Monday night. First ever meeting.
It's tough. Yeah, they've never played.
The Bucks and the Texans.
The edge guys on Houston are a handful. So I might be scared off of that.
So you're a no on Mayfield.
I think I'd be, and I like him a lot, grouping. But I think I might steer clear of that this week.
What about Jordan Love in general? Or even, specific to the matchup tonight. It's Thursday night, and I know there's a instinct to maybe want to avoid needing points from guys on Thursday night football.
Yeah.
The total's decent though.
There is always that. I don't know. Like I feel like Love. There was a big hurry, I think, to anoint him as on the not the very top tier, but close. Maybe this is known now as the Herbert tier. I don't know. And I'm just not. I wasn't sure when it happened, and I'm not sure I'm full all the way in that he's like a made commodity yet. I guess. So I might shy away from that. And the Thursday thing the Thursday thing is concerning.
I like him a lot. I won't use Love for Love, but I like him a lot, and I think. One thing that works against him, he doesn't put up, this is somewhat of an answer to the fantasy question, he doesn't really put up big numbers because they don't work like that, the Packers. It's more about the running back, whoever it is. Now it's Josh Jacobs. Defense has been pretty good. So they're not in shootouts, are they?
They're
Green Bay.
Like methodical, maybe.
Yeah. And he also doesn't have, like Rodgers with Devontae Adams, in Green Bay, like the stud, or Allen right now, like the number one guy that's like clear cut that would draw attention to, like, look what he's doing for his receivers. He's not really doing that much for his receivers, like there's even in week 1 against a Lions team that was led the league in scoring last year, they could do nothing to threaten Green Bay. So they got to play the game they want to play, I think.
Right.
Maybe tonight, just as a fan, hoping for, kind of fireworks, I'd like to see Washington be able to push them.
Really go, yeah.
See what happens if Love is kind of in a duel with Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I stupidly put a parlay together earlier this afternoon, like before I got here, that included the over, and then we talked to Joe, and I went, oh, it's Thursday. Like, these games, not always, but they're, short week, just what are you going to get here? Game plan-wise, and, you're going to get great execution on both sides. Maybe this early in the year you can hopefully count on it. I don't know, but I regretted putting that bet in before. I'm not in shape yet. It's still preseason for me. I don't bet during the preseason, so this is my preseason.
Well,
I'm like, I shouldn't have done that.
It is 48.5.
Right.
It's a pretty good number. So
yeah.
With everybody kind of having that attitude about Thursday nights, there's still enough interest in a high-scoring game here to bring that out.
When I looked at the number, I went 28-24. I could see that. That's over. Fine. I'll do it.
We'll talk more about the game Sunday and back to Bills-Ravens as well. You're welcome to join us at 803-0550. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR. Like power rankings today. Because now we have information. We have actual games.
Yeah, you asked me, I walked in, power rankings, does it feel right? I said it would feel wrong not to do it. It's Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Like, this is the OG power ranking spot.
Yeah.
And now that we're into a season, like week 1 is completely done now. Week 2 is coming like a freight train on Thursday night, but we've got this little time. So, yeah, this is where we should do it.
And we know stuff.
Yeah. Everybody's played.
For example, 16. Absolutely.
Miami.
100% Miami.
Who looked worse?
Nobody.
In the entire league than Miami.
The Giants, but they had a good opponent on the road. Carolina, maybe. Bad day for Carolina.
They were pretty meek, yes.
Bad day for Carolina at Jacksonville. Jacksonville, I don't think, was even good. Tennessee, disappointing. Tough defense, but
there's a lot of analysis that I'm seeing of Cam Ward is catch the ball. A lot of people looking at every throw said he should have had a much better day than he had.
Yeah, there was a few drops
on the stat sheet, but the just nobody could do anything for him out there.
You know what? I just looked and I forgot already. I think it's the first time in reverse AFC Power Rankings history that Miami was 16.
That would make sense. They've been.
This is. Look at
how many years
Twitch.
does this go back?
I mean,
it's the Twitch.
Is it?
I don't know.
I mean, we had Houston 16, 25 out of 30 weeks in the early days of this. So it goes back.
This is like
4,
the height of
5
the
years.
Watson controversy and suspension and whatever injury. Like whatever.
Davis Mills,
right.
Losing here 40-0 in the pouring rain in week 3 a few years ago. Yeah, I mean it's 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah,
but Miami has never been 16 until today.
They've been pretty good that whole time. They've been sort of vying for the division with the Bills. Really, this is the first year. I mean, they didn't really do it last year either, but this is the first year going into the year that you're like, yeah, no, they're not going to be there.
Player Profiler, I think it was, have done some work for them. Asked the question: first coach fired, Mike McDaniel or the field?
I would take Mike McDaniel.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Dable is interesting, though.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that the GM is, like, with him. The Miami GM, Chris Greer, has been there for more than a decade, I think. So they're not, like, a team in the same way. Possibly at least. Mm-hmm. But it's a good bet. It's a good question. All right, 16, the Miami Dolphins, who will be here in 9 days.
Right, that's right. A week from Thursday they come in.
15. Browns?
Somebody's going to have to be here, and they're not good.
Chiefs?
But I'm impressed that they held the Bengals to 17 points and 7 yards in the second half.
And
they'll if they can play that kind of defense against that caliber of opponent, they're going to win some games.
How many games?
5, 6.
You'd take over 5?
You got to look at their schedule.
It's bad. I put the word Browns in the form of a question because there are 2 rookies on offense that showed very well for Cleveland in week 1. Dylan Sampson, as just like a flare pass running back, but he caught 8 passes. So he's somebody like you might start in fantasy in week 2 at Baltimore, though. Still, losing game script. Maybe that's what you want. And then Harold Fannin Jr., my cousin. Not really, but my grandfather's name is Luther Fannin, and there's also a Luther Burden. So I'm sort of claiming both.
Okay, sure.
Harold Fannin Jr., number 44 for the Browns. Phenomenal debut. He even took a snap at quarterback. Wildcat quarterback, running back, tight end, slot.
Rough news today on the Bills injury report. Defensive tackle Ed Oliver, a new addition, and was the only player to not practice today. He's dealing with an ankle injury. Our own Sal Capaccio reports that Oliver was seen today in a walking boot on his left foot and was using a scooter. Some other injury notes, as today was a walkthrough. 6 players were limited: Greg Rousseau, Dawson Knox, and Trey White, each for a second straight day. Jordan with a dislocated shoulder, and Vegas tight end Brock Bowers not practicing today as he deals with a knee injury. Then in baseball, Bison's at Rochester just after 6. That game's going to be on our sister station, the Bet 1520. The Jays are up on Houston 4-0 in the 8th. Then just after 7, the Yankees will host the Tigers. Toronto does hold a 3-game lead in the AL East. And then also just after 7, Mets at Philadelphia. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
They have this Panther sound effect that is just the cheesiest, stupidest sounding thing. Big voice guy going, Panther goal scored by Sam Reinhart.
Where'd you get that thing?
I trapped it. Been keeping it in my bathroom at the motel, feeding it old pizza.
It's Mike Schopp.
If you're calm, that wondrous big cat will be calm too. But if you're scared, that beautiful death machine will do what God made it to do. Namely, eat you with a smile on its face.
And the Bulldog. On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Welcome back. The Bills at 1-0. The rest of the AFC East 0-1. At the Jets Sunday, and it's also New England at Miami. I was thinking about something you were saying earlier, and I would love to hear like some feedback on this. You know, is there a game here? Maybe this was easier to say about the Baltimore game, but is there a Bills game here where they could win, but you wouldn't be happy? These are our lives now, right? Like, it's not enough to just win against teams like this. Or what the Jets have been maybe for the few years here, that it might not be enough for everybody to just win. So you're like, it's all good. Any win is good. Just chalk it up. On to week 3. That's it. The style points do matter in our conversations, though. I mean,
for sure. The
standings are the thing. But what I think everybody, especially Bills fans, but with what happened on Sunday night, what the conversation people want to have about them is whether this year will be different in the end. And you can't know that until the end, obviously. But, you know, games like this one could end up being, at the risk of sounding too cocky, they could end up being ones where, like, all right, well, we're not sure yet, you know? And the defense is where that is this week.
Definitely is how. I mean, sure. I'm as thrilled as any. Well, I don't know anyone. Lots of people are probably more excited about it, but I mean, it was breathtaking, incredible, whatever you want to put on it, to win that game like that. But you know, I'm mentioning it frequently during the week here. The rookie defensive tackles basically had to be removed. And, you know, now you're going into this game and Ed Oliver's on a scooter with a protective boot on his foot because of some ankle injury, presumably, at some point. And we don't know what happened there. But if he can't go, then welcome to the starting lineup, TJ Sanders, who played 16 snaps, 4 of which were touchdowns. Now, like, that doesn't mean that was all on him. I didn't go back and, like, go forensics here on, like, what he did. Maybe he did his job well on some of those plays, and it just, you know, went awry anyway. I don't know, but that's a horrible start anyway, and Walker was not much better than that. The two of them together were on the field for a couple of scores. So, you know, that's where you're looking, I think, primarily if you're hopeful about the defense being significantly different and better than it was last year. Sure, Bishop in for Hamlin, it should be an upgrade, but the summer came and went without any affirmation that was going to be the case. Walker and Sanders took turns sort of flashing during the preseason and the summer. And you'd have reason to, okay, well, that's those, especially Walker, that's a different body type than I've had, and maybe that's going to be the answer I need to shore up this run defense, and maybe everything will build from there. You know, if a team can't get off running it, maybe they'll have a harder time passing it, they'll be forced into passing, etc. I mean, that just did not happen in any way, shape, or form. Baltimore just could do whatever they wanted on the ground, and the passing was just a compliment to it, basically, on Sunday night. So, yeah, the reviews, you know, overall, incredible. They won 1-0. Baltimore, Kansas City 0-1, number 1 seed, pole position. Okay, great. Like I said all that. I mean all that. But I mean, you get up under the hood and look at what the defense did and how they performed play to play. I mean, outside of Oliver, Bosa had some disruptive moments. I'm excited by that. But overall, I mean, they got trampled. And the new guys, again, Walker didn't play a snap after some point in the third quarter. They had Oliver and Daquan Jones playing close to 70% of the snaps. That's not where they want to be more like 60-40, I think, with those guys in the middle of that line. So,
but you think they couldn't risk it?
They couldn't, yeah. I think they felt like they needed to get them out of there. So, the first trial balloon of my reshaped defense, these assets being poured into the defensive line. And again, Bosa is a part of that, and he flashed enough. He got caught a couple times, but he caused that fumble. He made some plays. He was in the backfield. I know Jackson made he and Rousseau maybe look silly, but Jackson can make the best players in the league look silly back there in the open field. The point is, so what? So that's a bad look, And if that continues, then you got trouble, But that's a part of the point about, as long as I get wins, sure, we'll talk about the warts and whatever the problems are and hope that they'll get better. And they got plenty of runway to get better, provided they keep winning. It didn't cost them ultimately on Sunday. I mean, it was damn close to costing them, but it didn't. And so until it does, you're sort of like just kind of, okay, well, they've got time to figure it out. First game, all that. Hopefully they learn, they take instruction, and the hard week that McDermott is referring to produces a better result against a lesser opponent, for sure. They're capable of doing some of, you said earlier, Baltimore light. I think that's, dollar store Baltimore. That's kind of what the Jets represent here. Hall is big, but not as big. He's faster than Henry, but that's a different kind of challenge. And Justin Fields is bigger than Jackson, I think, physically, but not as gifted a runner. But he's in the top tier of running quarterbacks in the league. Good. He's very good at it. So you've got sort of a unique situation here where you have a chance to demonstrate that, the improvements are going to take root and we're going to be better. And it's, right away, quick, turnaround from week 1 to week 2. It's a similar enough opponent that you would expect to try to test you in a lot of the same ways that Baltimore did. And, what kind of result am I going to get on the test? We'll see. But again, week 1 was very tough.
Yeah, this will be a very interesting game to talk about on the heels of Sunday night because mostly – I'll use the same word I've been using this week, like the afterglow of that win last year, the stadium, prime time, Josh and Lamar, all of that put together. It's a wonderful game to remember and talk about and just, wow. If Sunday is a struggle, it'll be like, do you guys remember the first 50 minutes of the game Sunday night? Like, it just, they stole it. And it erases. I had a conversation with a friend who's like, "What a great game! One of the best games I've ever seen." And it is in the end. But most of the night, it was just like the Ravens were on a higher level than the Bills. The Bills did things offensively to mostly keep up, but it looked like one team was much the better team of the two. And again, like it goes both ways. We don't get to know until January what is going to happen in January, but everything is like some indicator. And I don't know if Sunday, if I would say that game, that opener, puts me in a better place about their chances, except for one reason: the standings, because Baltimore lost and Kansas City lost, and the lead is theirs already. Like in that way, yes, but. If not for just like incredible
and Allen's performance, of course, but
Allen's performance, but we already came to expect that from him. I mean, it was bigger volume out of necessity, mostly. I mean, 394 yards, right? But nobody had any doubts about whether
that
Allen,
he could do that, right?
Right. And he's done that even in the playoffs.
Yeah, the question is, even going back to last hour, is how often do you want to have to call on him to do all of that, right? I mean, it's a long year, and you wouldn't expect him to have to play like Joe Burrow played last year every week. Like the Bengals did not get to the playoffs last year because their defense was so bad. Despite Joe Burrow, he doesn't leap over tall buildings in a single bound like Allen can, but he put on a cape last year and had an incredible season, and it didn't mean anything. You don't want to end up there. I mean, and I'm not suggesting the Bills are headed there, but I mean, that game Sunday was, if you're looking for signs that they shored up their defense, the safeties were bad. The new tackles were bad. The linebackers, frankly, that's supposed to be one of the stable parts of this team. They had a tough night. Oliver flashed. I think Bosa flashed. Russo did some things, but overall, they got bad play out of guys that they're just going to need a lot. But the linebackers especially. I know you need the guys up front to do their job and all that, but I mentioned this yesterday. I watched a great breakdown from Joe Marino. Numerous times, Bernard just does not take the right route. He just allows himself to be sealed off. And, some of that was, specifically on one play, the quick snap that Baltimore was using. There's a play where Bernard is still, his head is turned, he's talking to people and gesturing around, and he looks back and the ball snapped. Like you weren't ready. They caught you there. So hopefully that goes away with time and repetition here. But it was tough. There's plenty. Yeah, I didn't want to go too hard at it on Monday or Tuesday or even yesterday because of what you said, the afterglow of the win. Like, you bunch of ghouls, what are you doing in there? The Bills won the game of the year, maybe. We'll see what happens the rest of the season, but it's certainly going to be up there for the game of the year. I don't think anyone that watched it or was there is going to forget this game anytime soon. But within it, again, if you're like most crucial offseason objective was to shore up your defense so that Josh Allen doesn't have to do what he did in the fourth quarter, I don't know anything else to do but give you an F for Sunday. I mean, it just did not happen at all.
They really haven't had a season yet where the Burrow mention is really good. Like, they have not had to do that yet. They have not had to be – it's at the middle of the whole, if you will, controversy about their receivers. Is, the Bills are basically like, it's good enough, guys, right? I mean, we've won. Maybe you didn't notice that we set a franchise scoring record. Like, it's good enough. And I think on the other side of it, a lot of us are going, well, one of these days it might not be. And how would that happen? Because if they can't stop anybody, then are you going to, and they did on Sunday. I mean, they even got, just forgetting about why it happened or the defense part, but they had 5 guys with at least 4 for 48. Kincaid was 4 for 48, and he came in 5th, among their receivers. So if they need it, will they get it? And, a lot of these games last year, we didn't get that answer. Kansas City, the playoffs happened, and that was the most important game, and they didn't get it when they needed it there from Cooper or the Kincaid play at the end. So, like that the Bengals year from last season, the Bills have just not been pushed like that, And maybe if it is close to the worst case scenario on defense, they still might be fine if like the division is so bad. Yeah. It's not the 1 seed though, but you could win the AFC East with a team that ranks bottom 3rd in defense.
I brought up the Bengals just so it doesn't turn into like any kind of a runaway train. I mean, the Bills still have enough, I think, good players on defense, even if the defensive tackles don't smash. I mean, they played Baltimore. It's a very tough matchup. That's an elite team all around, especially on offense. The skill sets are pretty unique with Henry and Jackson. Rousseau, Bosa, Oliver, they've got guys like I don't think Milano and Bernard are going to be terrible all year, but I don't think they had a very good night on Sunday night. And a lot of that could just be the matchup and everything else that was going on around them. I would expect it to stabilize, but that brings you right back to this Sunday. Can you handle a team that sure, they may philosophically want to bully you like the Ravens did, and they have similar enough personnel. The running back might, is maybe their second best offensive player after their number one receiver in Wilson, who's better than anyone Baltimore really has at receiver. And then, the quarterback is, a couple steps down more than that from Jackson. But athletically, he's similar enough that if you can show that you can handle that, more than handle it, I mean, just, shut it down. Like, hold the Jets to 80 yards rushing or something in this game, which I don't, maybe that's too heavy a lift. I don't know. But if you can do it, then everything that I've just said here in the preceding 15 minutes is sort of like, okay, well, we can put some gauze on that at least for now. I don't know that the wound is sealed, but we're not bleeding. They got on the field and they stabilized, and some guys showed up and had much better week 2s than they did week 1.
Let's go to Dennis here. Hi, Dennis.
Hey, guys. So, I got to guard myself against criticizing, too much here. I mean, they just scored 41 points in a great win. Sometimes I feel like, Allen, I think to most people's eyes, would agree, if he's not the best player in the NFL, he's top 3, right, in most people's eyes. And sometimes I feel like the Bills don't know how to have the superstar quarterback. They sometimes it seems like their game plan is, in my eyes, correct. It doesn't have to be in my eyes, I guess, but where they lean into him. And then there's other times where it just seems like they try to lean into everyone else, and everyone else is not nearly on the level as Josh Allen. So, like, for the example, a couple of those drives that they had where they stalled out, 3 runs in a row to James Cook. I mean, I don't mind giving the ball to James Cook. That's not my point. But the point is the calls that we made and the times that they made, 3 in a row, and it's a punt. You don't even let Josh have a drive. Then the next drive is 3 screen passes out to either tight ends or wide receivers, which are really just running plays. There's one option. It's just Josh throwing to the one guy the play is designed for. So you're not even letting him be the MVP. You're leaning on other guys. And then when you have to lean on him at the end, then he does the Superman stuff. And I think that they need to be able to understand who they have there and lean into him earlier, and then they don't have to get into some of these positions.
Well, I understand.
I think all of that's fair. The only caveat that I think, and this is hard for us to know out here without going through, I'm not capable quickly enough here for the context of this conversation to go call up the all 22 and look at those 3 run plays. But did Allen switch into any of that, right? He is given that autonomy to do that. So that is going to be a part of this conversation, and it's a vague part of it because we don't always know when we're sitting here. We're not looking at the plays to know, what did they call there? Did he switch to something because of what he saw? This is not to absolve all the conservative play calling. It's just that the knee-jerk is always to, it's Joe Brady, and what kind of play call was that? And it doesn't always take into account whether or not Allen saw something that caused him to change the play at the line of scrimmage. He should have that ability to do that. And again, I'm not positive that that's happening in any of those situations. It's just that it could be, so I want to just pump the brakes a little bit on that without really knowing what's going on there, for sure.
Yeah, again, I think I've already said it. It's what we've been talking about here for a bit. It's ironic that the game, for as amazing as it was in the end, and as much of a highlight show that Allen and the offense put on, it doesn't make me feel better about what they are overall. Because this receiver thing that we've argued about for years may end up being tested. That's what could happen. We're saying the same thing a few different ways. If their defense isn't, at least average. And that's, we're just getting started here. Yes, Baltimore, but, what did it really look like? So
not even average.
Yeah, and I think the Jets, as I've said also, the Jets' performance in Week 1 is, it's maybe not a team anymore that if they had a good day offensively against you, you'd get really scared. I mean, we don't want to see it, but maybe they're actually pretty capable. There's a clip on Twitter today from the Le Batard show. Two different guys were talking about Dan Marino and Shula. And if the show hasn't sounded older than right now, I don't know. But
these are former Miami Dolphin quarterback and coach, by the way. You kids out there.
Yes. One commentator was saying that Shula failed Marino in his prime years by drafting defense. The things, these are kind of familiar, sort of the team building stuff that we've sometimes argued about with the Bills. And where was sort of a further commitment to him? Better weapons, not running the ball as often. I mean, it was a very different time. Would have been more kind of insane if the Dolphins sort of leaned farther into Dan Marino, but they really didn't. And the other guy in the conversation said that he talked to Shula late in Shula's life, and that Shula said that was one of his regrets, is that they didn't do more for Marino. So, we don't want to end up there, but so far that's kind of what we've got. I mean, we've got a quarterback that's basically unstoppable, and, the Bills have obviously come very close. And here I say it again, we won't know these answers for a long time. Whatever the Jet game looks like, they just, like you keep saying, the point is to win. And hopefully they get those advantages come January if they win often enough. Thanks, Dennis. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog at 803-0550. What do you think? Let us know. This is WGR.
Rough news on the Bills injury report today. Defensive tackle Ed Oliver, a new addition, did not practice. He's dealing with an ankle injury. Our own Sal Capaccio does report that Oliver was seen today in a walking boot on his left foot and was using a scooter. Some other notes from the walkthrough today. 6 players were limited. Greg Rousseau, Dawson Knox, and Trey White for a second straight day. Jordan Hancock, a new addition with a shoulder issue. And then Shaq Thompson and Taron Johnson were elevated from not practicing to limited. Everyone else, though, was a full participant. For the Jets, cornerback Sauce Gardner limited with a groin, while wide receiver Josh Reynolds missed practice due to a hamstring. And that is the Barnes Firm Injury Report, brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-million. We do have Thursday Night Football tonight. The Packers will host the Washington Commanders. Kickoff over on Amazon Prime just after 8:15. Our coverage right here on WGR will get underway at 7:30. And then in baseball, Bison's at Rochester just after 6. That game's going to be on our sister station, The Bet 1520. Jays just wrapped up their game with Houston. They do win 6-0. Just after 7, the Yankees will host the Tigers. And following their win today, the Jays now do currently hold a 4-game lead in the AL East. And then also just after 7, Mets at Phillies. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Caller 5, go get it. 716-221-4WGR. That's 4947. Wins 2 tickets to see Adam Sandler at KeyBank Center next Sunday, September 21st, courtesy of Live Nation. Tickets available at Ticketmaster.com. You a fan?
Sandler?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I've enjoyed plenty of his work. Yeah, even going back to just sitting at the desk at Weekend Update singing about Thanksgiving. Yeah, I think he's fun. He's a funny dude.
Opera man.
Yeah, he's good.
Next Sunday.
I don't.
Sounds like we'll see you there.
I don't chase down the movies or anything, but yeah, I like. And the movie where he's not funny at all, Uncut Gems.
I never saw it.
Tremendous.
Okay.
Very uncomfortable. Like, if you don't like watching things that make you like, oh, God, I wish it to stop. Just go on. Go, no, don't. But it worked. I mean, it was really, really well done.
It's like watching the Dolphins.
Right.
It's very, very uncomfortable here right now. New England at Miami, Sunday at 1. The Dolphins are a small favorite. 803-0550 for us. Here is Phil next. Go ahead, Phil.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I don't know if you talked about it. As soon as the game was over, it was just unbelievable. And then the next day, I'm still on this high. And even Tuesday, I'm still on this high. And I feel like, well, the players, for them to have such an emotional win and then to get ready, and go on the road against the Jets, it just feels like such a trap game for us. And I don't know. I was coming Wednesday. Yesterday, I started feeling uneasy about that after I came down from my high. And I'm like, how do these guys get back up for this game to the level that they need to be mentally against a division opponent like the Jets away? The Jets looked a lot different than they have in the past. They looked better. I think they're better coached. It just feels like a trap game to me. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Well, go ahead.
I mentioned this to Sal, I think on Monday, even if that wasn't too soon, but I don't feel like it was yesterday that I brought it up. Like, how big of a job is it for guys to sort of get? Because I have felt much the same way. I haven't approached really feeling uneasy or nervous about this game at this point. This game coming up against the Jets myself, but I think the players would have been on quite a ride emotionally to experience what they experienced Sunday night. But, they're NFL players. And I mostly feel like the trap game thing is, you see it happened. And if it doesn't, then nobody really mentions, I thought it was going to be a trap game. It could happen. They could be vulnerable to what the Jets want to do. They could be as ready for this game as they were for the Baltimore game, assuming they were really ready for it. I mean, they got trampled for most of it. So I don't know how even, not how not prepared they might have been for Sunday even. The opener, I mean. So I don't know. It's one of those things that I feel sort of clicks into place whenever it fits. And it could end up fitting. I mean, I don't know. And it could even be a thing. I don't know. McDermott seemed to want to make a point about going hard on Wednesday to get their attention. That's not nothing to me, that he wanted full pads, let's go, just to try to drive home the point that Sunday night wasn't good enough despite the win. So I think it even seems like McDermott is on guard about it to some extent, that, Sunday, but it's more that Sunday wasn't good enough, not that he's worried they're going to be sleeping for this game Sunday. But so that's most of what I have to say about it.
I agree with all of it. The term usually is used to refer to a game where the following week is somebody, like maybe you had Philadelphia next week or the Chiefs,
right?
The game in between, but it's been disproven as a thing in that particular way that you're going to win if you're an 8-point favorite. So a fan is going, yeah, they're not going to be serious. You're going to win, as often as an 8-point favorite as you would if the game were dropped anywhere else on the schedule, over the long haul. But it's all reasonable to think that they might, just need some extra focus or something like that. I think maybe it's more, not really McDermott, but I'd be worried more for just sort of how they looked than how they recover. And that's kind of what you said, too. Just, I'd want to get to work with these guys right away after that game because it was pretty awful defensively, assignments and that. It wasn't always that they were just out of position, and that might be an easier problem to fix, assignments.
Yeah.
If they're just manhandled, then that's not going to be easy to fix. That's not something, that's a bad sign.
And I do feel like a lot of what I have watched, breakdowns and even referenced here is not the two rookie defensive tackles that I've cited. I'm not sure about, like, whether that was assignment or physical, right? But Milano and Bernard, I think, was largely assignment. Right, they put themselves in a position to be vulnerable to being outmatched. Instead, bad approach lane, like Taylor Rapp on a running play, taking 2 steps backward before he commits to coming up and trying to tackle Derrick Henry. I mean, I know trying to tackle Derrick Henry is a tall order, but that's the job, dude. And he, ran away from it before trying to come up, and then is late and then out of position, and that's assignment, right? Getting caught by a snap count is to some extent assignment, but Bishop is so young, he's got so few reps, he blitzes from 15 yards deep because he's supposed to, I think, as the play clock is winding down, creep up, and then come and hopefully surprise the quarterback. And instead, the quarterback and the offense surprised him. They snapped it, and he thought, I guess I'm supposed to blitz, so I'm going to go. I think you want to go to school on something like that. That is assignment. That is, if you get caught like that, here's a better thing to do rather than just waste your time chasing. By the time you get there, the ball's very likely to be gone, and you've just taken yourself completely out of the play. So try to make yourself useful some other way. That kind of stuff. That's assignment. That's the whiteboard and video and just being ready for that should it happen again. So that's all to me correctable. Getting just flat out getting your butt kicked. That's tougher to overcome.
Yeah, it's a big game for this. To see if the Bills look like they've looked almost the whole McDermott, era defensively, and not what they looked like mostly Sunday. Let's go to Nico next. Hello.
Hey, what's up, guys? Appreciate the airtime.
Sure.
I was just curious. I think the problem with the Bills, and it's been this way for a couple of years, is that our philosophy towards football games is the old school clock management. We want to be, we want to run the ball. We want to approach these games with a defensive-minded approach instead of having, an offensive-minded approach, which I think is our entire team is Josh Allen. And it's like we don't really let him go until we have to, and when we do, it's phenomenal. But I'm always, during these games, I'm always thinking to myself, why are we trying to play this way? What is the reason that we're not just scoring until we can't score anymore, and just seeing if teams can catch up? Because I feel like if we did that, we would see more of the last, the fourth quarter of last game instead of the first three quarters. I just really wish I would see the full potential of Josh and someone that kind of lets him do his thing at all times instead of just, being that blue-collar head coach that just, we got to do this. And I think Josh masks a lot of McDermott's the issues that he has because Josh is so good. But I do think that there's so much left to be desired on this offense, and I don't think we'll see it with McDermott there because I don't think he'll do anything to ever get fired. I think he's a fine head coach. But I just wish we had one of those young offensive-minded head coaches to just take the governor off, see what happens.
I certainly see why you want to say that, and I made the same point here about Sunday's game plenty of times this week, that they've sort of forced at gunpoint to open it up and throw the ball down the field and then look at the results. But just looking at last year's final scores is not going to completely counter the point you're making, but this is a team that has big leads a lot. So it's not like they just wait around playing a game hoping to kick a field goal at the gun and win it. They have a tremendous winning percentage in games like the one Baltimore had seemingly in hand on Sunday night. So they do get out in front and they do coast plenty. Miami and Jacksonville last year, the first two night games of the year, I mean, they
over by halftime.
They hammered those teams. So it doesn't exactly fit. Sunday, it did, certainly, to everyone's view. They really, there was a lot of just at the line of scrimmage passing and just nothing that really, short of the first drive, which they moved right down the field and scored on a pass down the seam to Kincaid on, it was pretty conservative looking. But I don't think the blanket statement that this is McDermott's MO is accurate.
I wonder if there was a little bit of save our defense in this game. It took a while for it to be a game where the Bills just could not get stops. But that's what you'd want. You'd maybe break a tie trying to play a little bit more of a ball possession game if your defense is, just wearing out. But I'm not sure that fits for Sunday.
Just buzzing through, I just clicked on one box score of a game from last year. Seattle, 31-3 is the score early in the fourth quarter. I mean, so it's not a blowout, but they were never challenged. They touchdown, field goal, they just had the game in a headlock the whole game. So I don't know. It's too, I think, definitively stated the way the caller put it, that's what they do and that's McDermott and all that. I don't think it holds.
You mentioned their winning percentage in games where they had maybe about the same win probability as the Ravens had. Bill Barnwell today wrote on that. Baltimore 69-8 in games with a 90% plus win probability in the fourth quarter. These are teams that are ahead a lot. The Ravens are certainly that. 89.6% is much lower, or at least lower, than the other top teams and even some bad ones, as he wrote. The Bills in the same context, 90% plus win probability in the fourth quarter over the same, four years or so? More than that? 83-4. It's got to be more than 4 years. 83-4. The Chiefs, 90-3. The Packers, 69-0. The Packers have, how many years is this? I mean, that's a lot of games. The Packers have no losses in this same span when they've had a 90% win probability. Maybe tonight's the night. Maybe if you want to sort of dare them to get to 70-0 and they get to that 90%, if you're able to track that somewhere, you pull a Sammy P. who bet on the Bills Sunday night with 2 minutes left or something, where they were, was it 11-1, 15-1, some odds like that.
Yeah.
And it got even more. They became even more of an underdog than when he bet them, but he won handsomely. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog at 803-0550. Paul Hamilton at 6. The Sabres prospect season is almost here. We'll have that to talk about with Paul. This is WGR.
Hey, how about a shot at 25?
Thursday Night Football, Washington at Green Bay. Pretty good. 2 playoff teams, both at 1-0. Pretty easy, almost identical Week 1 wins. Washington over the Giants, Green Bay, worth a little bit more, beating Detroit. We will have our official picks in about 25 minutes. Very strategically placed on the schedule today.
Mm-hmm.
Don't expect there to be a real reason for it. All right, I'll tell you. It's because Paul is coming on next, but he can't stay that late. So it'll be after Paul. I'll be watching.
I'm definitely going to be watching. I'm into this. Like I didn't really look at Washington much at all in Week 1. The Green Bay game against Detroit was so boring that I ended up on Red Zone for a lot of the back end of that game. So, these are 2 teams that presumably, if the NFC is somewhat open here, we'll see if the Eagles end up ruling the roost or not. But these are reasonable enough contenders. So, yeah, I think it's a pretty tasty matchup.
For sure. They might be 2-3 in the NFC. Philadelphia would be 1. Shortest Super Bowl odds, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I think Green Bay moved. When the Parsons trade happened, they made a move, and I think the win helped. So I think it might be teams 2 and 3 in the NFC pecking order. I'll get home at some point. Margot, my pug, will dance around and greet me very warmly and excitedly. She is, however, this has become a regular thing, totally freaks out when you leave. I think I told you this. Like, it's so obvious to her now. Like, when I pick up my work bag, she jumps up and follows me because she knows, I think, that if I have the work bag in my hand, that I'm going.
You're out the door.
And she then accompanies me to the door and starts to cry. And this is everybody in my house.
Oh, wow.
Yesterday.
What a performance.
Or recently, my wife and kids went out, and I stayed home, and they all went out the door like 3 different times, like a minute apart. My son went out. I think she took them to school, is what it was yesterday. So he goes out to, wait by the car, and Margot just loses it. And then a little time passes, and then Mama goes out, the same thing. And then my daughter goes out, the same thing. So 3 separate freakouts.
Wow. Should get them to leave in unison to just lower the stress level on the dog.
At least, yes.
I don't want to put the dog through that.
Go out together next time.
They ask for so little, these dogs, and they give so much in return. The least you can do is lower that stress level on.
I don't know how to fix this. Like, I today tried to tiptoe out. And it just, because she's like dead asleep on her bed.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, can I just get up? No.
Mm-hmm.
Did not get away with it. Paul Hamilton after the update here on WGR.
Folks, Bulldog here to tell you about the car show that saves lives. On September 27th, Cruisin' for a Cure, Buffalo Niagara is back featuring some of the best cars.
Today, courtesy of the Bills injury report, defensive tackle Ed Oliver, a new addition and did not practice as he's dealing with an ankle issue. Our own Sal Capaccio reports that Oliver was seen today in a walking boot on his left foot and was using a scooter. Other injury notes from the walkthrough today. 6 players were limited. Greg Rousseau, Dawson Knox, and Trey White for a second straight day. Jordan Hancock, a new addition with a shoulder. And then Shaq Thompson and Teron Johnson were elevated from not practicing to limited today. Everyone else was a full participant. For the Jets, cornerback Sauce Gardner was limited with a groin, and wide receiver Josh Reynolds did not practice due to a hamstring. The Barnes Firm Injury Report, it is brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-million. Tonight, Thursday Night Football, as Week 2 gets underway, the Packers will host the Washington Commanders. Kickoff over on Amazon Prime will begin just after 8:15. Our coverage, though, right here on WGR will get underway at 7:30. Looking ahead to the weekend, Sabres Prospect Challenge will begin tomorrow for the Sabres down at Harbor Center. Do stay tuned. Paul Hamilton will join the show next for more on that. And then in baseball, Bison's at Rochester just after 6. That game will be on our sister station, the Bet 1520. While in the majors, the Jays did take down the Astros 6-0. Just after 7, the Yankees will host the Tigers. And with that, the Jays do currently hold a 3.5-game lead in the AL East. And then also just after 7, the Mets at Philadelphia. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Paul Hamilton.
Oh, Ceronic and Hamilton going to each other, and Sawinski. Bison do it.
We have to fight.
With Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Snodcheck was just totaled by an Iowa State player against the board.
I think it was by Hamilton.
On WGR.
Really a pretty unnecessary hit by Hamilton. Hamilton is still awfully mad. He's being held back.
Number 17, Paul Hamilton. 2 minutes for charging, 5 minutes for fighting, and the misconduct.
Sports Radio 550.
Hockey is almost back. In fact, tomorrow at 7, the Sabres prospects face the Devils prospects. And Paul Hamilton, of course, will be a part of our coverage tomorrow, Saturday, and Monday. Devils, Blue Jackets, Penguins. And the Monday game is a noon game. Paul, you know all this.
Yes, I do. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, hockey started yesterday. We had our first practice, and I'm ready to go. Now, I was driving here. I'm actually in Rochester getting ready to do the Bisons and Rochester game. I heard you guys talking about Bills and Jets, and I texted Bulldog. Yes. Bulldog, did you know that information I sent you?
I did not, but I'm glad you reminded me that you sent me that because we didn't get around to mentioning it on the air, but I did mention it off the air, and Mike checked the box, and you were right about it. And what I wondered was whether or not you just had that on lockdown or if you also went to like Pro Football Reference to check whether your memory was correct.
I was pretty sure. I knew they had either 3 pick six or 4. I had to make sure on that. And I remember Tommy Yannick had a 100-yard interception return for a touchdown. And the other 2 were pretty long also, Butch Bird and Booker Edgerson. They all had some yardage on them as far as the pick sixes that Joe Namath threw. But that was the only loss that the New York Jets had, or the only win, I'm sorry, that the Buffalo Bills had all year, and it came against the Super Bowl champions and Joe Namath.
And it was almost the Jets' only loss. Like, they might have had 1 or 2 more, but, yeah, all the way to Super Bowl III.
Well, great memory, Paul. Yeah.
This is a Bills-Jets game from 68. We were talking about the history between the two teams earlier. Okay.
Yeah, the Bills weren't that good. Do you remember who the coach would have been?
Buster Ramsey.
Joe Collier.
Joe Collier. Buster Ramsey was earlier, right?
Yes.
Okay. I apologize for the error.
I have no further questions.
Good. So, from the past to the future here, Paul, here comes the Sabres' future. How promising is it? You've got, I know we've got the roster and, some names we've talked about in the past.
Yeah, a lot of these guys who are with the Amerks have been in this in the past, and it's good for them. Like Roseanne, and quite honestly, we can start there. I think this is basically his make-or-break year. He has to pass through waivers to go to Rochester. This is his 4th season. He's been an all-star in Rochester. He scored 28 goals down there last year. He looks very good, but in 15 NHL games, he only has 1 assist. Now, I think I remember him in those 15 games playing in the top 6 once. And I think if he's going to be successful in the NHL, he needs to be a top 6 player. And in my opinion, there's a job available for him. If he wants to seize it and take it, they need a top 6 player, somebody that can play. He has a good chemistry with Kulich on the AHL level. So to me, this is a very important time for him. It's very rare you see somebody play in this Prospects Challenge 4 times, and this is his 4th time.
Yeah.
Last year he had 5 assists in the 3 games, but he needs to dominate this thing to start, and then he needs to have a good preseason because, in my opinion, he could grab a job if he plays well enough, but if he doesn't, I'm not sure he's going to be an NHL player.
Is he, without question, Paul, in your view, like the guy that from the group of players that are here, and we know we've got guys from this draft class who absolutely, it would be stunning if, say, like Mertka made the team or something. It's not in the cards at this point, right? But is Roseanne like the guy here that has maybe the best look at being in the NHL should he show well?
And in my opinion, the best guy to deserve it, I am a staunch believer in the American Hockey League, and I think part of the reason the Sabres are still in the jam is they identified a core team, but they didn't stay in the American Hockey League enough. Dylan Cousins never played an AHL game. Neither did Owen Power. And you look at, like, Quinn played less than 100. I think you got to get over 100 games. And look at what Kulich has done, playing like 140 AHL games. Of all these prospects we're talking about, he probably is growing best, looks the best, because he had a chance to grow. Everybody got rushed up. They got these big contracts. And to me, I think they just crushed that core group. Now, they drafted so low so many times, or so high, actually, because they were low in the standings, that they do have another group here, and I would not rush them. I did like Ostlund when he was up last year. I would have him in Rochester. Hellenius really came on as an 18-year-old in the American Hockey League, and as the season went on, played much, much better. Again, there is no point rushing any of these guys up here. Let them perk down there. Even Levi, let them develop the right way. Do it the right way with this group. You made a mistake the first time. Do it the right way with this group, and I think you might wind up with some better results. You've got 3 centermen. You got Kulich. You've got Josh Norris. You've got McLeod. There's no reason to rush up Ostlund or Hellenius with what you have, and let them get some time in the American Hockey League to develop.
And furthermore, don't stick him into a 4th line role. You've got Kozak for that, or someone else if you want to plug a 4th line hole.
Stone could do that,
sure.
And that's what they got him for. That kind of a role, and he does have an upside, I think. But you're absolutely right. There's no point in having Roseanne on your team if he's going to be playing on that line.
If folks want to read a little more on Hellenius, including what his coach had to say, you wrote about him at WGR550.com within the last few days. I know I came across it today. I'm just not sure when it landed there. Okay, this morning. And, yeah, I mean, what the coach had to say about him is pretty encouraging, and just overall his season, I would say, last year was encouraging. Hellenius, as an 18-year-old coming over, smaller rink, all of it. You lay it all out there, and it all makes sense. And the fact that he sort of adjusted, and it sounds like he did some very specific work this offseason to try to be ready to even, hit the ice flying here in North America in October, more so than he was ready last year.
Yeah, it's not easy for an 18-year-old to play in the American Hockey League, especially in the division they play in. They play against older players who are huge and love to hit. Now, maybe that's good for him, actually, but, he's not expecting that because his body isn't even close to being developed at 18 the way it's going to be. So he got bounced around a little bit, and Wahlberg has experienced that as he's trying to become a power forward in the NHL, and they both realize they need to go home in the summer, and they need to get some muscle on them. They need to get bigger. They need to be able to handle this punishment that they're going to be getting. They're not going to get punished probably any more than they have in this division in the AHL. From a physical standpoint, it's probably not going to be as much in the NHL, but it helps them. It helps him just make plays faster. He wasn't used to making plays that quickly, so he wouldn't get a shot off because he was taking too long. Those are the types of things that he was learning. And if you take a look at his numbers, most of the numbers he got was in the second half of the season.
Paul, just a couple minutes left with you, I know. What are the Sabres doing in goal this weekend?
they're going to have, and Leone wouldn't say, Mike Leone of the Amerks is coaching them throughout this. Lindy Ruff watches this. He doesn't coach it. He said they have 4 goaltenders here, all drafted. 1 goaltender will play Friday, 1 will play Saturday, and the other 2 will split Monday. So all 4 are going to play, but he wouldn't say, my guess is that Ratzlaff would get a game by himself. I think he's going to be the backup behind Levi and Rochester. So I think we could be pretty much assured about that. But we'll see, who gets the Saturday game, but that's our plan right now.
All right. And this is all at Harbor Center, correct?
It's all at Harbor Center, and they usually get good attendance at this. It's other than the Monday game, which is at noon. But for the Friday and Saturday game, it's usually filled up. People come and watch this.
And these games are going to be airing where exactly?
Friday, Saturday on WGR. Pregame tomorrow is at 6:30. I'm sorry, you guys are going to have to go home early. You can stay and listen if you'd like. I
have this in my car. But thank you.
I wanted to offer.
Yes.
And on Monday, we will be on the Bet 1520 starting at noon.
All right, very cool. There's also the other teams, Pittsburgh and Boston, are playing tomorrow afternoon. That's a 3:30 game, I think, tomorrow. So
there is a game getting ready to start right
on the night.
now.
That's right.
New Jersey and Columbus, I believe it is.
That's right. I'm seeing tickets are $11.80 where I'm looking.
Are
so,
they?
Yep, that's for this weekend. All right. Thank you, Paul. Enjoy baseball. Santander is down on a rehab assignment.
I'm looking forward to seeing him. Batting second, DH. He will not play the whole game for the Bisons. They expect him to get maybe 2 at-bats and then call it a night and see what happens tomorrow.
Well, I'm sorry you might have had to miss his first at-bat because this game has already started. I don't know where you're standing.
All right. That's all right.
Very good. Thanks, Paul.
I enjoy talking to you guys.
Appreciate that.
All right, there you go. There's our Paul Hamilton on the Westford Hotline and his appearances. I have to read this. I did get it committed to memory by the end of last season, but it's been, I don't think we talked to Paul since July. So his appearances on WGR brought to you by Equitable Advisors. Planning for your future is about more than just money. Let Equitable be your guide, and by Relax Honda. Relax, we got this.
It's a cool weekend.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice casual sort of vibe there. Beautiful building. And, get a taste of the Sabres' future and the other teams. Devils, Penguins, Bruins.
Right.
Are also in town.
And, hey, I know everybody's going to be starving for their football content on Monday, but the big kid is going to be in the booth with Paul for Monday's game. On the Bet 1520. I think and I'm not sure if Brayton Wilson's going to be there or not. That's why Paul invited Owen to come do it in case Brayton couldn't make it. I think there was some question about that. But anyway, Owen's going to be on the call for, a Prospects Challenge game. So that'll be fun for him.
Very good. All right, tonight we have the Devils and the Blue Jackets. We've discovered.
Let me see if I can find a line on that.
Yeah. While you're doing that, I will get us set up for the NFL game tonight, which is Washington at Green Bay. And we should probably pick this game. It's part of the tradition.
We should, yeah. I like, if you don't mind, just in the future when you're getting us set up to pick a game, you can make some of those football noises.
Tackle noises?
That would be good. Just,
all right.
Or if you want,
under advisement.
I can just start yelling again if you want, like last week. Oh, my God, I can't believe it. All right, I'll stop that.
Theater of the mind.
Shouldn't have gone back to the well.
There's a place for all of this. All right, let's pick the game.
And what if I did do it, even though I admit to nothing and never will? What does that make me? And I'm not here just defending myself, but all those pickers out there who've been caught. Each and every one of them who has to suffer the shame and humiliation because of people like you.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Are we not human? If we pick, do we not bleed?
On WGR.
I am not an animal.
Sports Radio 550.
I made the mistake. How about this job getting us set up of not using FanDuel? And this line has been like 3 or 3.5 different places with different numbers. So on my way now, hopefully not too late. It's 3, minus 110 both sides, right down the middle. 3 with Green Bay. I'll take Washington.
What do you think you're doing going first?
Oh, okay, you go first. Right. I forgot we have a week of this already, and you're ahead. That's bad.
I am ahead, right? I'm not. You said you didn't know for sure when we.
I don't know what your record was.
I was 3-2.
I was 2-3.
Okay, so I'm.
That puts you ahead.
I'm running away with this thing. That's what's happening here. Putting him in his place.
You want to get the lead.
You and your visors. I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm also going to take.
I am not wearing a visor.
No, you're not. The people on the Twitch could see that. I'm also going to take Washington.
Are you?
Yeah.
I'll take Green Bay.
All right, good. Washington's getting 3, you said?
Yes.
Okay. That's when I make a note because I like to keep track of mine.
You know, I am not really betting this game with money, but
why not?
The guys, I mean, with this kind of conviction, why would I not? The Bet Sweats guys are both on Washington. And, you know, I was watching them today, and Joe even joined us earlier. Sam's talking about try to find the 3.5, you know, like that. And he made a case for Washington, and I thought it was a very good case. There, you know, Sam gets fired up when, like, the Stephen A. Smiths of the world do power rankings, and they take the Packers and move them up to 2 or 3, and Joe mentioned that also. But I just remembered that it didn't work, but I was off Washington this year because I thought maybe that was a little bit of a fluke.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if Deebo Samuel can still play and just
right. Yeah,
Eckler
we were both on the Giants. Big spread, 6.5 last week, but we both lost on the Giants.
Yeah, we got crushed. But I remembered that I'm supposed to be off Washington, so I felt like, you know, Packers at home -3, I can afford that.
All right, I'm glad I reminded you to get off of Washington by taking them. But if that, you know, played any part in it at all.
Yes.
You mentioned the odds earlier, by the way, like whether with the results in week 1 in the NFC, what happened. The Lions are still ahead of Washington in the Super Bowl odds. It's in the NFC behind Baltimore and Buffalo, who are tied, at least at FanDuel, at +700 to win the Super Bowl.
Yep.
The Eagles are at that same number. Green Bay is at +800. So they if that, I didn't notice, but I'm assuming that's a move up for them. And then the Lions are still the third NFC team, +1,800. Washington at +2,000.
Packers were +1,200 at the time of the Parsons trade.
Okay.
And so now 800.
Big climb, yeah.
Washington's problem on that list is Philadelphia, because those other teams are all division favorites. Or
Right.
you have Lions and Packers, I guess, but Ravens, Bills, Eagles. That's Washington's problem for the odds, I think, is that they would be favored to be a road wildcard team like they were last year. Otherwise, makes sense. Wonder if San Francisco took a dip today. Kittle, too.
They're at the same 2,000. I didn't mention them, but they're at that number. I don't know where they were prior to all this injury stuff happening either, but that's where they're at number-wise.
Purdy to miss weeks.
Right.
To not find out what Sal thinks about. Stay tuned for our next segment. No, what do you think about Mac Jones as a replacement? How big of a downgrade?
I think it's quite a considerable downgrade, but the only caveat I would want to place on it is it unraveled in New England, and there's a lot of stories out there about how Belichick wouldn't even talk to him in that second year, like just completely froze him out. Like, I can't win with this guy, but I'm stuck with him kind of thing. And
what a leader.
Right. If Shanahan really did like this guy, even if he didn't, he might be able to unlock some stuff to make that work. But I wouldn't feel great about it. I mean, he's pretty flawed, I think. But Shanahan might be able to cover up some of that.
You're alluding to when Jones was drafted and how Adam Schefter threw out until like the day of almost.
Yeah.
The draft process was like confidently predicting that the Niners would take Mac Jones at 3 overall. They made the move up, and that they took Trey Lance. And what do you think? I feel like the overall conclusion drawn was that Shanahan wanted Mac Jones. But whether it was John Lynch or ownership or both, were more like, this other guy's kind of an athletic freak. And like, we can take our time, and there's just way more upside with Lance.
Yep.
Which still, I mean, may be right. Jones didn't have that upside, right? We kind of saw that with New England. But that Shanahan wanted him. And now he's got him. This offseason, they went and signed him. Now you've got the Purdy injury. Jones was never a threat to go in, I think, before this. But now Shanahan gets to show.
Purdy got the contract even, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
He's been paid. Like they are pot committed there. And yeah, did you see today when the multiple games started percolating? That today was the first I saw of that. Early in the week, it was like he may miss some time.
Yeah.
It may in question for this week sort of thing, and it escalated to multiple weeks for him. It's like some variant of turf toe or something. Like we
turf toe variants.
We can't just call it turf toe. It's some variation of turf toe now. Like what are we doing? It's turf toe.
Does it always have to be the big toe?
Maybe that's why it's a variant.
It's a different toe? It's like a middle toe? Can you get turf toe on like your middle guy there?
Like the big guy next to the big toe?
Or even him?
Yeah. I don't know. I've never been really confident in the names of the toes. Pinky toe, big toe, the other three toes, I don't really know. Is it ring toe?
Do they have names?
Is this like ring finger? Does it match up like your fingers?
I'm the kind of guy.
Toe? I don't know.
I'm the kind of guy that assumes big toe when I hear turf toe. That's me. Another injury, by the way, and there's no, as far as I know, definitive word on playing status, but Dallas Goedert has missed the last 2 days of practice for the Eagles. It's Eagles-Chiefs this week, and I think he is a pretty big loss. I mean, they've played lots without him, Goddard, and they've been fine, mostly. But it's pretty narrow with A.J. Brown, who had one catch against Dallas, and there's been some speculation about his hamstring, like whether he's 100%. Devontae Smith also had a quiet game in the opener. Philadelphia, of course, still won. But now it's Arrowhead, and they may not have Goddard for Sunday 425. So that's kind of big, potentially.
Yeah. I hear that.
Tough calls to make at quarterback in fantasy, starting tonight with Jordan Love. Daniels is a no-brainer. But so many of these, I mentioned this earlier, so many of these guys in that Love range, so to speak, like Trevor Lawrence at the Bengals, you just don't get, and this is me, the love range. This is me sort of wishing for it. You just don't see the explosion games from this quarterback, Love. He's good, never gets sacked. He's pretty safe, and they run the ball and they play defense and everything. But the upside you want when you're picking in fantasy, you want there to be a
smash
303, something like that.
You want a Love range explosion.
Okay, so can we get that from Jordan Love? It doesn't seem like it hasn't happened too many times, but maybe if Washington has a good night, then he can do that in keeping up with Daniels.
I'm chuckling to myself. I'm putting on this dopey voice. Did you notice the CBS voice, the guy that brought to you by? It's even more pronounced. Whatever that effect is called that's on the end of each word he says is even elongated even more this year. It's going to annoy me all.
You feel like maybe they just wanted him to do that? We'll have you back, but we need you to really exaggerate. Of all the things you might expect to happen, we need you to exaggerate the effect.
Yeah. I don't know what happened there, but it felt more noticeable than ever to me on Sunday.
Wow. Well, we should measure that.
Yeah.
Sal Capaccio with us earlier. We've got Ed Oliver in a boot. What's going on there? More from Bills practice, the new punter, in our conversation with Sal, which we will have for you next. Then tonight, Washington at Green Bay. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. This is WGR.